Speaking out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome. Oh my gosh. Look at this, man. Oh, is he sponsoring this show? Are we sponsored by Cody Rhodes?
Might as well be. We were at WWE this past week, Jeremy. If you couldn't tell, I was live at Raw on Monday and picked up some Cody Rhodes swag. So
I see that.
Yeah, shout out Gunnar Mathis, the homie. He waited in line before I even got to the show to grab me this autographed promo and this T-shirt. He was there before the show even started letting people in. So, you know, and then I went and got more stuff during one of the matches. We'll talk more about, you know, Raw and your experience at SmackDown as we get into the show. But welcome to the show, everybody, as people trickle in. Hey, Jeremy, how's it going?
Good. You caught me completely off guard with your Cody Rhodes swag now, because you were wearing none of this. You had a shirt on, but I couldn't see what the shirt actually was.
That was strategic. That was strategic, Jeremy. Yeah. Big reveal right here. As I'm sure guys could imagine, we'll talk about my Raw experience. Cody Rhodes country in Atlanta, Georgia this past Monday.
Yeah, it got beat up.
Well, I mean, we don't have to talk so much about that, but let's talk about, we talk about the rest of my experience at that show. But yeah, how's everyone doing today? Good to see people in the chat. If y'all have any super chats, feel free to send them. We'll make sure to put them on the screen. We'll read them out. We'll answer your questions, read your statements, all that kind of stuff. Jeremy Padawer's interview later today as well, around 11 a.m. Eastern time. I think y'all will really enjoy that. Jeremy Padawer is the chief brand officer of Jazwares. So if you're familiar with these AEW figures, especially like the ones that I've got behind me, he's responsible for those. And also Jack's Classic Superstar is one of the most iconic lines in action figures for wrestling, and we got a whole bunch of stuff. I asked him about my Dave and Buster's NFTs at one point. So y'all, there's a lot of good stuff in there. So
he buries NFTs, which was fantastic.
Well, he doesn't bury NFT. He does the
buried NFTs.
He does the most logical explanation I've ever seen anyone give of NFTs, of explaining what the potential value in them could be. But yes, if you want to, I don't want to give too much away from the interview. You always see that at 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's about and I think it was like an hour and 15 minutes long.
Yeah, we went over an hour. I think it's the longest interview we've ever done, honestly.
I think so. I'm glad though. I mean, that was awesome. We were expecting to do like a half hour, and then it was just like it was going well, and he told us like to just like keep going. Pretty much, it was like, this is awesome. So, and he also has said he wants to do a part 2 at some point with us. Also, like he sounds down to come on again, which is awesome. I mean, so there has been a little controversy, by the way, Jeremy, since we talked to Jeremy Padawer. The timing of this interview is interesting.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw people in the mentions. First off, or circling back for a second, shout out to Big Dick MLJ for the intro. Okay.
Absolutely.
I saw in the comments when you were plugging the interview that that some people were unhappy with. Apparently, there was a mess up with Allie / the bunny and her figure in the latest line, which this was revealed at like San Diego Comic-Con, which took place after the interview. We actually did this interview last week. Usually we do the interviews the week that we run them, but we did this interview last week with Jeremy. And San Diego Comic-Con was this past weekend. So yeah, this interview actually happened before all of that.
Exactly. So we obviously we don't talk about that. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened there either. I guess I could ask Jeremy and see if he wants to give us any kind of answer on that, like off air, that we can give to y'all. Yeah. But excuse me, trying to clear my throat here. Got some water. The controversy more or less is that what it seems like, I think they were advertising the bunny Allie as a figure in Series 13, and they're doing the Butcher and the Blade still as regular releases, but they replaced the bunny. I'm not sure who they replaced her with, because like there's like Sting, Wardlow, can't remember who all is in that set, but they still are putting out the bunny, but it's going to be like a chase figure. So it's going to be one of 5,000 or whatever. And so it's still going to be out there, but it's going to be harder to find. And I do understand the frustration if you're a fan, because like you're like the Butcher and the Blade are finally coming out. You would want to get the Butcher, the Blade, and the bunny all together, but you're going to have to like hunt down the bunny, and that's going to go for premium prices probably if they don't, if they're rare and people are having a hard time finding them and stuff like that. So I get it, but at the same time, please don't let that one thing take away from the interview y'all are going to hear at 11, because that thing is packed with an hour and 15 minutes of like legitimate good information. And Jeremy's a really nice guy. I mean, super cool. The other Jeremy is a super nice guy, really, really cool. Totally different than the Jeremy I'm talking to right now. But no, I'm kidding, dude. But I think you're gonna really enjoy that interview at 11 o'clock. We'll talk a little bit more about it probably right before it airs. But we got a really good show for y'all today as well. There's a lot of good stuff. Me and Jeremy were both at WWE events. He was at SmackDown. I was at Raw. We obviously had Blood and Guts last night. I mean, we got a ton of stuff. We have a new AIW champion in Isaiah Broner. We've got Manders won the SCI this past weekend out of the Red Bank, the Chattanooga, Tennessee area. So like we got a lot of good stuff. Impact returns. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. So
let's get right into it, Jensen, and we're gonna start with.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
The story never finishes, Stephen. But one story that I guess kind of finished was our WWE live experiences. I was at SmackDown. I took my mother to SmackDown, and you were at Raw. Did you have a date for Raw, Stephen Jensen?
My brother's the one who got us the tickets. Actually, he has a client. One of the guys he trains boxing is that's why I'm able to go to a lot of like the Hawks games and stuff. He has like a box seat with like their like little like food section. It's awesome. So that's how I was able to go to the show.
All right, so we both went to WWE this past week. You were excited because Cody Rhodes was obviously going to be there, and it's his hometown of Georgia, Atlanta, and it was a big homecoming for old Code Man there. I was excited because my mom hasn't been to a WWE event in about a decade, so I was excited to just kind of show her what the experience is like nowadays, and she was excited to see, oh, this is what I sort of do for a living. When was the last time you went to a WWE event, Jensen?
It's been a long time. I honestly can't remember. It was probably I was probably living in Nashville at the time still, so probably like 2019, probably maybe 18. Because I don't back. Yeah, because I the last WrestleMania I went to was 34 in New Orleans, I think. So like WWE shows would have been, because I don't think I've gone to any WWE shows since I've moved back to Atlanta, because Cody wasn't in the company the other times like they were here.
And you had no desire to go to WWE if Cody wasn't there.
No, I went to all the AEW shows though when he was in town. So that was bizarre though, because like the same area I was hearing Cody getting booed, a couple years ago for another company. Same look, same presentation, same theme song, same everything, and they're blowing the roof off the place. Everyone's cheering when he's with the WWE. It's wild. But I don't think I've gone to any WWE. Yeah, so yeah, it's probably been since like I probably went to like a SmackDown or Raw or something back in Nashville in like 2018, 19 was probably the last time.
Wow, I did not know it was that far. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. I know you weren't the biggest WWE fan when Cody was not there, and I did. Now, go ahead.
To be fair, I did go to a lot of NXT shows, because like the NXT would come through Nashville and stuff. So like I went to a lot of those still, but I didn't really go to like Raw and SmackDowns and stuff like that. Okay. I forgot about the NXT shows. Those are obviously different. Those are smaller buildings and stuff like that. But
right, last WWE show I can remember going to it was coming out of the pandemic when they were in Cleveland. John Cena was there. It was before SummerSlam. Again, it was right after right after the pandemic. And they just returned to doing live events. It was like, I think it was like the first SmackDown after Money in the Bank, which was like their first big show after the pandemic. That was the last WWE show I can remember going to. I've been to a few AEW shows. So it hadn't been too long. I guess technically 3 years. Maybe that is a while. So I guess it's been a little while. What was your experience like, Jensen? What did you notice from whether it was the presentation, the crowd? Are you going to bury children on this show?
No, actually, I'll put the children over a little bit here. It was actually like refreshing to be in that atmosphere. It was, it's just different because like I'll be at AEW here in Atlanta in like 3 weeks, and that'll be a completely different vibe. And most of the stuff I go to nowadays is indie stuff. So it's like I'm going to like a high school gym or a bar or something like that. And so it's like the vibe that I get from going to live wrestling in the last handful of years is like totally different than going to a WWE show. And that said, it's like it's just fun. It was just different. Even like the little girls in the crowd were going nuts for like when Rhea Ripley would be on the screen or like Liv Morgan and stuff. They were going crazy. Like you could tell, like for these little girls, like having those role models is super, super important to them. Like they really look up to the women on the show, and I think that's something that obviously people know, but it's something you really experience it when you're live. Like because you can actually hear how excited people get, like in real time in person and stuff. It's just different. When just in general, I would say, because even when like they started doing the main event tapings before the show, all the people that were already there, because it was pretty much sold out. I mean, the actual crowd was sold out, but like even before the show started, like every seat, like for main event, like people were all there ready for the show to start an hour before it started, and even for the main event matches, people were popping huge for like every move and like every entrance. And you can just tell that for a lot of them, it may be their first WWE event. It may not, but like you can tell they're just so excited to see their favorite wrestlers. Like it's just, they're not there to see like the best match. They're not there to see like all the things that I'm necessarily there to see in a professional wrestling show. They're just there because like they're just people that they look up to are right there in front of them, and they can yell at them and they can try to high five them and they can hold their signs up and like they can support them. And so that side of it was a lot of fun. And then of course, when the actual show started, Cody came out right at the beginning and that place went completely insane. Like that was probably the coolest. I've been live in the crowd for stuff like the Hardy Boys returning at WrestleMania. I was there in the crowd when Bryan Danielson won the world title in the main event of WrestleMania. I've been there live in the crowd for some really cool stuff, and those moments were humongous. Like when I in WrestleMania 33, I was there in the crowd with everyone else doing the Hardy Boy thing when they came out, and when Danielson won, I was doing the yes. And I mean, I've been a part of some really cool stuff, but I don't think I've ever been a part of anything. And this also, I've been a part of a lot of UFC events with cool stuff. I was there when like Tyron Woodley knocked out Robbie Lawler. I've been there where there's like really big stuff happening, crazy atmospheres. But this was something totally different. I don't know if I've ever been somewhere where everybody in that building was behind the hometown guy to that degree, to where it felt like the building was moving. I mean, it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. Our homie Gunner and his brother were sitting. Their seats. They were the first people, like when the wrestlers walked out the entrance ramp, how there's the fans on the guardrail, like pretty much on the stage. That's where Gunner was. So he got high fives from Cody and stuff, like right when he came out, and he was like right there. He got some great videos. You have to check out his Twitter, at what's his actual Twitter handle for Gunner? It is. It's just at Gunnar Mathis, GUNNARMATHIS. Check his Twitter out. He got a lot of really good videos from right up on the stage. And then, of course, I turned to my brother before any of this happened, by the way, and I said, Cody's going to get beat up in front of his family. Like I was expecting that going into the show. I was joking about it heading into the show, saying like, it's WWE, right? Like no one ever is gonna get their ass kicked in their hometown. Like they would never do that, right? Like I didn't live through the days of JR, going to having this happen to him from his family all those times and stuff. And anyway, so that all said, it was cool seeing his family get put over. It was cool seeing all that, and then Brock beat him up. Like it was expected. Now that all said, I lasted maybe another hour after that. I mean, by 10 p.m. Eastern, I was already home watching the rest of Raw on my couch. Like,
wait a second.
Oh yeah, dude.
Wait a second. You left like after Cody just got beat up. You were literally there just to see Cody.
Yeah. I left after the Vikings Raiders match. The one with like the big ship attached to the ring. Yeah, I was like, me and my brother were like, yeah, we're good. I got all my Cody Rhodes stuff. We're gonna beat the traffic. Like, this is great. So yeah, I watched the rest of the show while I was playing Fortnite at home at like 10 o'clock.
I did not know that you had left like immediately after basically Cody got. What if he came? Was he not wrestling in the dark match?
He didn't. I mean, I don't know if he came out again afterwards, but that was the decision I had to make, was like beat all the traffic home, or like maybe Cody comes out again. And I felt like he wasn't going to. And that was the thing. I waited for like a solid hour. I was like, okay, who else am I going to be seeing on the show? And I was like, all right, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn already came out. I already got to see them. They're going to wrestle later, but like I still got to see them live. I got to see like Gable and Otis, which I wanted to kind of see their entrance because they're pretty over right now.
What if LA Knight came out, Jensen?
I'm glad. Well, I wasn't expecting to see him on the show because he's not on Raw, and the brand split's very real, And then, I mean, but that was the thing. I got to see the only person I missed that would have been cool, like Shinsuke Nakamura. But once again, I was there live when Nakamura debuted on SmackDown in Orlando. Like, I'm never going to see a bigger Nakamura entrance in my life than that, probably. So, like, I'm not really mad about that. Rollins did like a pre-tape thing with Balor. I don't know. I think he probably came out at some point during the show. And if I missed that entrance,
he came out at the end. Yeah,
that's the one thing that I would have liked to be a part of, but not enough.
He didn't get his entrance though. At the end, he came out and he attacked like Dom before the bell rang, or attacked like.
Oh, good.
Before, like,
okay, good. That I didn't
even get to do his entrance.
That I didn't even miss. But okay, cool. Yeah. So no, I got everything I wanted out of it. I really had, to be completely honest, had it been advertised that Cody's going to come out, do his entrance, and like he would not be on the show after that, I would have left immediately after Cody's segment. Like I would have been home by 9:30. I mean 8:30. I'm sorry.
What if Logan Paul had come out?
I know where Logan's at. He was at home. He was doing the Ricochet thing.
Yeah, but what if he came out?
I would have known if he was going to be on Raw or not.
That's right. You follow him on Twitter. And usually they advertise him.
Yeah, Logan I would have. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like I knew I wasn't going to be seeing Logan. So yeah, I saw like have I not made that clear enough through this show? I mean, like
you've made it very clear that you're there to watch Cody Rhodes and Logan Paul, and that's about it for you. I just didn't think like, oh, you're going to Raw and then you would leave an hour into the show, because they screwed up. They should have had Cody in the main event segment and force you to stay the whole way through.
I was kind of shocked about that, because that's what I thought. I figured that would be the hook for everybody to stay the entire show. I legitimately did. I figured that they would like Cody would come out, maybe get beat up, and then they'd advertise like, stick around because when the show ends, the American Nightmare is going to come back out, or like, they say like tell the crowd that or something, but that didn't happen. So like, at least not an hour into the show and I was still there. So, and by the way, it's awesome because like the seats that my brother gets us, they have this whole like concessions area that's like, that comes with it. So I loaded up on like free hot dogs and popcorn and like desserts and stuff. So like, and I took a bunch of stuff home with me. I grabbed like a bag and like filled it with like snacks and candy and stuff. So like, dude, I got in that 1 hour, I got food. I got free candy to bring home. I got all my Cody Rhodes merchandise. I saw the entrance. Like, dude, I was like tearing up there too. I was standing there and I was like pretty much in tears. Like it was an incredible moment. I got to see, and nothing was going to top that on that show for me. Like Cody already came out. The place already went crazy. Like, what am I going to see on the rest of that show that I'm going to get even remotely excited over in comparison to that? Like, it's just not.
This is like the greatest hour of your life.
Yes.
Jensen. It's like I got all this merch, I got all this free food and everything. I got to see Cody. I did the whoa. Like nothing was gonna beat it. The only thing that would have beat it, I guess, if he would have won the world title or something in that hour.
Yeah.
But
that would have been huge.
On an episode of Raw.
And I'll also say, like, so many people knew all the words to his song because I could hear all the kids around me too. Even the little kids are all singing along. We were all singing together. It's funny because like I'm up in this box, right? And like, through main event, like the show, the pre-show, I'm just kind of sitting there eating hot dogs, like I'm like not moving. I've got this shirt already, so it's like I've got my Cody shirt. Me and my brother's kind of chilling. There's not really people like right next to us in the box, which is great. And we're just kind of sitting there, and like everyone else around is going nuts for like every pre-show match, every entrance. We're just kind of sitting there chilling, and then like the show starts, and that like doom doom. It goes black. I stand up, and like we're like we're all alive, and like me and my whole section, and we're all together. Me with all the kids. Adrenaline in my soul, every fight out of control. And we were all singing it together. We're all like rejoicing. I'm like hugging strangers. It was great. It was great, dude. Like it was absolutely that entrance was one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. And once again, like there was no point in saying beyond that. Like, this is what it is. I got my hat, got my shirt, got my autographs, got my Funko Pop.
Oh my gosh! I don't know what else I can add.
How was your experience at SmackDown? I mean, I guess you stayed the whole show.
Not true. I did stay the whole show. I stayed the whole television tapings portion of it. I don't know if this will make you mad or not, Stephen Jensen. So they do the live show, which was a fine episode of SmackDown. My mom had a good time, and that's what really mattered. My mom was on In the Weeds on Monday. If anybody if anybody wants to listen to her review of the show. So my wife just messaged me the news I have to break to you because she knows that no one else knows. So we had a good time during like the television tapings and everything. I messaged you the LA Knight video. I was very happy to see that LA Knight was like actually there. Because everybody else did like the pre-tape for their next week thing, and LA Knight like came out and cut a promo. I'll say this, Jensen. I'll be on your side on this. I'm sure you didn't watch his promo. His promo, not a whole lot of substance to it. He just said things.
Is this what you were getting to when you were like, I have news for you?
No.
Oh.
No. Okay. This is to set you up. This is the nicety that I give you before I snatch it away and maybe break your heart.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
break my heart first. Do the break my heart thing first.
Okay. So they do the TV tapings, right? And then Cody Rhodes is advertised for the main event or the post-show main event, the dark match.
Right.
So they go immediately to it, by the way. There's like no downtime from the end of SmackDown to the dark segment. Let's go down to here we go. Cody Rhodes. Adrenaline in the soul, something, Cody Rhodes. I don't know the lyrics like you do. I do the video for you. I know you saw that. Like I taped that for you. I left right after his entrance. I was like, I don't need to see this man wrestle. I'm good. So we watched the entrance and then we left and we did not watch the match. So I did not watch Cody Rhodes actually wrestle. But
that's all? That's all it was? Oh, I thought you were going to say like, then like Sean called me and was like, go backstage and meet Cody or something. I thought this was going to be like really bad. Oh, you just didn't watch. Because dude, I didn't even know they were doing this whole thing in Atlanta for like the documentary until I saw things afterward that Sean
I was actually mad at Sean that like he could not get you some type of like, some type of pass for this. By the way, I was mad at Sean that he could not get you something for this.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't know anything at all about any of it until like afterwards. So, I mean, now granted, I have to work my shoot job and everything, but I'm sure I could have made something happen to go and hug Cody. I'd be like,
quit your job.
Yeah, I probably just would quit my job. Honestly, I would just bail. I'd be like, y'all can deal with me not being there, however you want to. No, okay. So that's you got the. Okay, you didn't see Cody wrestle, but you got the entrance. That's cool. Go ahead with the LA Knight news that you were getting.
The promo was like, it wasn't that much of anything. I don't even remember it. Yeah. He got like his delivery's very good. He has his catchphrases and everything, but it felt just a little not misplaced, but kind of just not poignant, I guess is the word that I should be using here. Like it didn't feel like it had too much of a purpose on things. Like I don't know. It didn't. Crowd loved it.
That's every promo he does. That's what I've been talking about this whole time. He's not saying anything. He just says it he says nothing very enthusiastically. But it's once again, I get the kids, it's the low-hanging fruit, it's the WWE universe. It's very easy. It's very easy to go along with them and LA Knight, yeah. Like it's like a tick, you know. It's like a scratch you got to itch. Like he's gonna say it. You're waiting for him to say it. Oh, we all say it together. Like that's okay. And then the rest of his promo is nothing. He just comes out and he just says nothing, or he'll literally just point out the most obvious thing that's like happening that everybody also is seeing. Like for instance, I saw recently. Because I'm always seeing these videos. I've talked about some of them on the show before where there'll be like LA Knight is cooking somebody and like it's like not even a roast, you know, of any kind, but it's just an enthusiastic ramble of some kind. And I saw something the other day where it was him like advertising something. You know, he's done a whole bunch of these like infomercials and stuff over the years too.
Yeah.
And somebody like had him on the spot, like advertising, like, hey, can you do a quick like commercial for our meet and greet or whatever? And all he did was he was just like, it was the equivalent of like, got this King Booker pop here, got this water bottle here, got this dragon sword or dagger here. Come on down to so-and-so's comic book shop. LA Knight, yeah. It's just like, and they were like, this guy's incredible on the microphone. Like, all he did was literally talk about objects that were literally in front of him, say his own name, and how is this?
Yeah.
Some genius next level promo cutting. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm glad that you understand, like, because it sounds like that's what happened. If you listen to his promos from now on, anyone hearing this, listen to what he's actually saying. I'm convinced that LA Knight could cure cancer and Steven would still find a way to bury him in a Ranford. Okay, listen. All right. To be fair, all right. Cancer is something very serious to my family. If LA Knight cured cancer, I would praise the man every single day of my life if that man somehow cured cancer. Okay. There are absolutely obviously levels to those kind of things, but I understand the joke there. Listen.
Louis got it. Louis got the comparison. Lil Jon wasn't a great lyrical rapper, but he still made bangers. That's it. LA Knight's got catchy bangers. He doesn't need the word play and the double entendres and the multi-syllable rhyming and stuff. Just, okay, what? That's it. That's LA Knight. But you know what? People are in the club. They're like, yeah.
Yeah. But there was also like the substance of like the music behind the yaying. Like you saw like a beat and like a feature and a hook and like all this other stuff that like LA Knight's just not saying anything. Cyclops is better than Logan. Says now I wish he didn't use cancer. And it's okay. I don't take that. Like, don't be down about that. Like I appreciate the joke. I think it's a funny joke. It's a good comparison. But
LA Knight is a little. I love this comparison by Louis.
The Lil Jon comparison. Listen, it's not a bad comparison either. Like I understand that comparison too. I get that. I just think there's a lot more. Like, because all I get out of LA Knight is like when I see that, like I don't think what I'm seeing is cool. Like when I see this guy come out like dressed up the way he's dressed, it's just nothing about him is like entertaining or cool to me. If a guy that looked like that was around me in public, I'd be like, what's up with this dude? You know what I mean? I'd be like, what's going on with this guy? If there was a guy who talked like that around me, I'd be like, who's the guy think he is? Like, this is weird, you know?
So anyway, he talks like this fully in real life. I've heard enough LA Knight interviews to know he's kind of more down to earth and toned down. He's on wrestling. You turn it up.
I know. I'm at this point. I'm just hating. Listen, but I'm agreeing with what you're saying because it sounds like you're agreeing with me a little bit now too, which is good. You're coming around
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit agreeing on the LA Knight as far as his substance goes. But now that he's just the Lil Jon of WWE, how can you hate this man, Jensen?
I'm not gonna. man. Okay. But outside of that, how was wrestling? Anything else good off of the off SmackDown?
I did pop for. Oh, I will say this about Cody Rhodes as well. You know, usually I've been to enough WWE shows to know, at least, again, it's been a few years, but people typically just like leave after the tapings. They got no time. I was there back in the day when like they tape 205 live after SmackDown, mass exodus to the exit, just everybody leaving off of that. Maybe nobody except for me left after the tapings and Cody Rhodes came out. Like, that arena was still full to watch Cody Rhodes and take on Damian Priest. Like, it was still a very full arena. There was not many people leaving. I don't say like nobody left, because there were a few, but like compared to what it usually is, like usually like half the arena empties out after the tapings. And it was maybe like 5% of the arena left. They wanted to see at least the Cody entrance. I don't know how much of them stayed through the entire match. I imagine most of them did, but yeah, nobody was leaving when Cody came out. So I joke with you about Cody and your love of Cody. I ain't denying this man and his drawing power, though. There is something to the end, or just something to like his connection with all of this. And there's something to him being a legitimate draw. And if you think otherwise, I don't know what to tell you, because business has been up with him on the road and doing all of these shows. And I think WWE is a hot product right now for a lot of fans, but I think Cody is also a hot act for a lot of fans too. Yeah. Otherwise, the show was good. I like the Jey Uso promo. I popped when he kicked super kicked Paul Heyman, because I did not see that quite coming. So I thought that was good. Paul Heyman calling himself a Juso was hilarious to me. Yeah, it was a fine show. My mom had a good time. That's what really
that's good
to me.
Yeah,
is
for
my
sure.
mom had a good time.
It's always fun seeing people that like aren't like don't really watch wrestling like have a good time at WWE shows. Like when I lived in Nashville, I used to bring like some girls with us and stuff that like never watched it, and they would always have a blast.
But my mom was sitting next to this group of people who like didn't seem like I could be completely off base, but like it didn't seem like they'd been to watch like a lot of WWE either. They didn't really know who a lot of people were, and they're asking my mom, who's this person, and my mom doesn't know, so she's asking me who's like this person and stuff. But they were having a great time too. These group of people next to my mom, like they were popping for everything as well. And like that is the thing that I think a lot of people, especially us when we're super online and super in the bubble and stuff, is like these shows aren't necessarily designed, like especially the live shows aren't necessarily like designed for us.
For sure.
Like it's very much designed of like, hey, you're out with your friends, come watch, come enjoy the experience. And I don't know how many people were first time viewers, first time this is their first live WWE show, how much they keep up with the product. But at least in our little gaggle row, there were people who it seemed like they'd never been to a WWE live event, did not keep up with the product that much, and they really enjoyed themselves at the show. And you know, that's part of all of this, is you want to draw people in to the live event for the first time who's like, oh, maybe I kind of know what it is, let's go hang out with my friends on this night. And then hopefully they keep coming back. That's part of it all. So yeah, everyone around me had a good time, and it was a good show.
Good. Yeah. So we both had good experiences. You know, mine was short and sweet, perfect experience for me. And yeah. And then
I
also
can't believe you left after Cody. That pops me so much.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like when I'm at home, dude. Like I always tell you before we do this show, I'm like, tell me if there's something I need to see for our show for WWE.
I know, but
because I literally, huh?
It's a big difference of like, okay, I'm at home. I could just turn off the TV after Cody. Oh, you tell me, like they do the Cody countdown, which is specifically designed for you.
Right.
You tell me when Cody's on, tell me what I need to watch. Like it's a big difference when you're at home and you just turn off the TV and you're just at home. Big difference between you're at the friggin' show and instead of staying through the whole thing and still taking in the rest of the show, you're like, nah, I'm good. But I respect it. I gotta say, I fully respect it.
I'll tell you this: I would never do this at like any indie show. I'd never do this at like pretty much any. I'd never do this at an AEW show. But it just it is what it is, man. Like it was. I had a great time for what it needed to be. Listen, if somebody would have hit me up and been like, hey, I have this like great relationship with Cody Rhodes, and like, you can go meet him after the show if you stay the whole time, then I'd be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like I'll stay the whole time if I get to like meet Cody or something. Like, that'd be cool. That'd be awesome. But and then speaking of this whole documentary thing, remember when like Cody would like get really upset with WWE? Actually, you know what? Do I have one of these around me? Ooh, I can actually do a little bit real quick.
Oh boy. No idea what's happening, folks.
So
Jensen is digging into there we go. There's the Stardust mask, the return of Stardust.
So remember, this is back before Cody left the WWE, he said, y'all call all these people Dusty's kids. Dusty's kids. All these NXT kids are Dusty's kids. And you've got Dusty's actual kid. And you've got him dressed up like an effing space clown. You got the #1 Cody Rhodes fan right here at Fightful. Get me involved with Cody Rhodes stuff. Please, for the love of God. Like, if we have ends to these kind of things. But anyways, the documentary looks really cool. I can't wait to watch it.
You've got to message Sean Ross Sapp, and
I didn't know this even existed until it was over with.
I didn't either. I knew he was going to Atlanta. I knew he was going somewhere. I didn't know what for. And I definitely didn't know it was this. I can tell you news off air that would break your heart, but I don't want to
oh no.
I don't want to get you more upset. Let's
move on.
I'm going to put this. Let's get a live Stephen Jensen reaction here. I'm going to put this in the private chat. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, we're going to have to just go ahead and change subjects.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. And it was a great show. And I think it's been a run of great shows.
AEW last night. AEW Blood and Guts Dynamite. Blood and Guts. We had the big blow off between the Blackpool Combat Club. I guess the blow off between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Golden Elite. The Golden Elite won. They were choking Wheeler Yuta, essentially hanging him. Hangman Page was hanging him, and Jon Moxley quit for his team to end it. And then after the show, which was not aired, they said they respect each other. They shook hands, and again, that's why I assume this is the blow off of it. This is the third Blood and Guts match. Jensen, what did you make of this bout?
I mean, I thought it was really good. I think a lot of people are kind of getting kind of harsh on Ibushi because he didn't look like his best.
Yeah.
But it was still cool seeing him there and involved. I mean, it was cool seeing the Golden Elite all together. And yeah, I mean, like, it was not necessarily like it was storytelling that made sense. How like Pac and Takeshita bailed on the Combat Club towards the end of the match. So I kind of like how everything played out, honestly, because the BCC still looks strong because like it was basically 3-on-5 by the end of the thing, and Takeshita is still a heel, Pac's still a heel. These guys, I think Pac's still a heel. That I'm assuming we're gonna get Pac versus Claudio on Friday.
Yeah, that's announced.
Did they announce that? Okay.
Yeah.
So they were able to kind of further some other stories, and then as you said, after the show, the Combat Club and the Elite shook hands, and but I mean I enjoyed it. The only thing that I've always really said about matches like Blood and Guts or like War Games is I just wish there was more of like a elimination aspect or something to where. Because the only thing I don't like about the match is the fact that there can't be any pinfalls or anything or any submissions or like, surrender or anything like that until everybody has entered the match. So going into it, the first, half hour or whatever, like the match can't end. Now it's cool because like you see them beating the hell out of each other. Like that's the entertainment aspect of it. I get all that. But to me, it'd be even more entertaining if like you knew there was a possibility of people getting eliminated like throughout the entire thing. It would just make it more interesting to me. But that said, that's just the way the match is set up, and that it is what it is. For what that match is, I thought it was done really, really well. And they came up with some really innovative stuff too, like especially the when Matt, I think it was Matt Jackson at the top of the cage when he put the thumbtacks.
Yeah, the thumbtack shower.
Yeah, the thumbtack shower. That was a really smart spot. I've never seen something like that before. There was a lot of cool spots in this one. The glass and the bed of nails. That was bizarre and brutal, and probably seemed a lot more dangerous than it probably was, but they looked super dangerous. Ibushi took a bump in the tacks and everything after the match, and that's kind of set everyone off as well. So yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good blow off, and like the Golden Elite needed to win this, in my opinion, and like they did. So I thought it was good. What about you?
I really enjoyed it. There was some gruesome moments, as you would expect. The bed of nails, I know, like it probably wasn't as like the nails were they weren't like super pointed like that. Like if you look at it, they were much more. I don't know if that's a great representation, but it didn't look like they were. They're slamming. They're getting slammed on this stuff, right? If that's an actual bed of nails, you're dead. Like that's just if that's like sharp nails, you're just done. So it's obviously a lot of the glass and everything, but like it still looks very gruesome, which is obviously the point. I like that the Elite won in kind of in the manner that they won as well, because Blackpool Combat Club, it was not the cohesive Blackpool Combat Club. Don Callis and Takeshita were not really part of the group. They just joined because, hey, Callis was like, hey, Takeshita, I need you to take out Kenny Omega. Pac was there because Danielson was hurt. So it was not the cohesive unit. The Golden Elite, that was a 5-person friendship right there. Right. So I think it made sense that the Golden Elite won. I think it made sense how they did the finish of like, all right, Pac's like, well, screw you. You hit me. Was this an accident? Was this not? And I said on In the Weeds, like, I think they might be setting up Pac and Claudio for Death Before Dishonor, because it seemed like they were going to try to set up something during this match for who Claudio was going to face with all the changes. Pac made the most sense. Ibushi kind of made sense if they could get Ibushi to work Friday. But yeah, they ended up going with Pac, which I think is a good call. And then Takeshita left because Callis is like, yeah, you did your job. The numbers aren't there now. Get out of there. I like Moxley, like basically having to quit for Yuta. I like that Moxley sold it very well, like the look of disappointment on his face as well. These matches are always a little tough because like they're basically an hour long. There's some downtime. I do think AW does a very good job of like not having too much downtime in these of like, hey, let's go around, set up this spot, let's set up that spot, and then do the big spot. Like they do a good job of like keeping the action moving in these blood and guts matches. And I think this one was a very good example of that, where the action just kept going. So I enjoyed the match. I thought the finish was good. I thought the right team in the end won. I hope we are at least done with this for the time being. It seems like, after the post show, we respect you, handshakes all around, have fun. It seems like they will. I think now you move on to Omega and Takeshita in some fashion, because the Omega Callis feud is still going. You got Jericho kind of off in the background, not even the background at this point, trying to align with Callis. Where does that leave the Bucks? Where does that leave Hangman? Are they going after the trios titles? How much is Ibushi going to factor in moving forward? Kenny said like Ibushi will be back and everything. And then where does Blackpool go with Danielson being out and everything? So I'm interested to see now where everybody goes after this. But as far as this particular match goes, I liked it. I know you like the elimination style. We've had this discussion before around War Games when WWE did War Games last year. I know you like the elimination style. I like the non-elimination style, and I like the submission or like give up style as well. I prefer that to the pinfall, because pinfall, okay, you can get caught in a 3 count. I know they're not going to do like a roll up as the 3 count or whatever, but I like that you are basically forced to say, I quit for this reason. Like, I surrender for this reason. I like that in this style of match. So I thought AEW did a good job with it.
Yeah, and I liked that because the ending, because I don't know if the camera missed it or if I missed it in real time. I didn't realize it was happening. They did, because I liked though that the story there is that Moxley threw in the towel for Wheeler, because Wheeler was getting choked out by the chain, and like you said, it was kind of a cool dynamic and like aesthetic on the screen and everything with Moxley just being handcuffed there. He was totally conscious and aware of everything that was going on. He just couldn't do anything about it. And even at the end of the match, like, he's not knocked out. Like, he's just sitting there on his ass, just looking at everything around him, just like in disappointment. I wonder if after this too, I mean, with all them shaking hands, especially because like if the Combat Club at this point is now just Moxley, Wheeler, and Claudio until Danielson comes back, it's possible they turn them face again. Maybe that's what's happening here already, especially if Takeshita and Pac bailed on them the way that they did. Because the thing with the Combat Club is you can flip flop those guys over and over if you want to, because they're going to be good as baby faces or heels. It just depends on who their opponents are. So yeah, I mean, Danielson's already flipped like 3 times since he joined AEW. So
yeah, I mean, Moxley got like one of the biggest reactions when Wild Thing hit last night anyway. So yeah, it's very much dependent on who they're feuding with, what kind of reaction they're going to get. They still got unfinished business, I think, with Eddie. Eddie, of course, isn't back until mid-August after the G1. So he's going to be off to the sideline a little bit. Maybe they can do some promos, some promos from Japan and stuff with him, but there's obviously still plenty of stories with Blackpool Combat Club, and they're never going to forget about like, what are we going to do with Jon Moxley? That man's always going to have a spot on television. So I'm not too worried about them. I am looking forward and seeing what the follow-up is now, because I mean, Moxley and Hangman have been feuding since basically the start of the year. Like they wrestled on the January 4th Dynamite, and they've been feuding this entire year, and the Elite and Blackpool have been pulled in as part of it. There's been some side quests and whatnot, but like that's been the crux of this feud that like really had started everything. So now we're over halfway through the year, and finally we're gonna kind of get a new direction for these guys.
Yeah, looking forward to it. There should be good stuff coming out of all that.
Your AEW spotlight, Stephen Jensen, is Mr. CM Punk losing to Ricky Starks in the finals of the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament. Ricky Starks grabbed the ropes after some roll-up reversals, and then he snatched the trophy from Liger, and Ricky Starks is your Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament winner. Your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. Now, really quick, I just want to give a quick shout out before I do this, because we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention the FTR versus Bullet Club Gold match. Obviously incredible. One of the best tag team matches you're going to see. I mean, I want to give them their credit, but the reason I made the spotlight the Ricky Starks Owen tournament win is because, like, for one, there's not really a whole lot I can do to do justice for that FTR Bullet Club match. It was an hour long. Go check it out. My big takeaway from that was that Juice took both the L's for Bullet Club Gold, and you can tell there's still big plans for Jay White as a singles guy, probably, which is all good stuff. But as far as Ricky Starks, and this ties in together, because I talked about this with Doug a little bit on Tuesday, I think that there's a chance that Ricky Starks may join Bullet Club Gold with those guys. That could make sense. Because the finish of the Owen Hart tournament, that was a heel turn. They can kind of frame it a little bit like Owen Hart was a prankster and like that, but like that didn't come off like a prankster to me. That came off like those were like dick moves. Like I would have preferred if Punk turned heel, because I think he's already a heel, and like some people just don't realize it. But I feel like he's gonna get booed. We've talked about that plenty at nauseum, but like he's gonna get booed in most places. He's gonna get cheered in some for sure, but I feel like Punk's already a heel, and people are ready for him to just full on just be a heel on the show all the way. But as far as Ricky winning the tournament, that's good for him. It gives him something important. He's needed that since kind of being kind of stuck after, like, he went after MJF, and then like after that he's kind of been in a lull, it feels like. So it's good to see him get this win. It's good to see him get a win over Punk. And one thing I'll say about Punk, that I always give him credit for, is I don't think he's one of these guys, like, Some of the things I dislike about Punk aren't really his fault. Like his push, for instance, I think he could go to Tony Khan all day and say he wants to put certain people over, and Tony's still going to be like, no, you're CM Punk. Like, you're a draw. Like, we're not going to have you lose to so-and-so. My point is, like, I feel like Punk probably often is trying to put over newer talent. Like, he probably went to them and was like, when I come back, I want to put over Starks. I want to put over Hobbs. He probably has his list of guys who he wants to help out. And that probably extends even farther. We don't even know. Like, I remember him wrestling Lee Moriarty, like a year ago or whatever, a little over a year, whatever it was. And when he wrestled Moriarty, like, for all we know, Punk went backstage before and he was like, hey, I want to put this guy over. And Tony was like, no, dude, we can't have you losing right now. Like, it just, it doesn't make sense, So, like, I want to give Punk credit. I feel like he probably really wanted to put Ricky Starks over. So, like, he got to do that. I didn't think the match was, like, great, but, like, it was fine for what it needed to be. And at the end of the day, it accomplished what it needed to also, because if you're going to turn Starks heel, we got to see it. And then it's just a matter of, like, where do you go from here? Because, Starks is going to get a big push. And like I said, I think maybe him joining with Bullet Club Gold would make sense, considering they had, like, that little feud and everything, and with them all being heels. Because if the Bullet Club Gold was the Guns, Juice, Jay, and Ricky, that's a pretty solid little faction for AEW.
I agree on yeah, so we got CM Punk, FTR, the Guns, Juice, Jay, Ricky. I feel like Ricky and Jay both kind of overlap.
They're almost like both the leader kind of vibes. I get that, but if you're going to keep Jay and Juice kind of more as a tag team for the time being, but also you'd have the Guns as a tag team. This might not be the best idea. Like, I'm just kind of trying to think of, like, what is the best thing to do with Ricky, because with AEW, they're so good about, like, doing these stables and stuff that I feel like him on his own isn't going to be as powerful on the show as, like, if he was a part of a group, if that makes sense. So I was trying to think of, like, where he would fit in.
I think him on his own might stand out more than being part of the group, because everybody is part of a group on this show. I mean, even Hobbs is dealing with QTV and everything. Like, him just being on his own, like, I don't need any of these people. And Ricky, I've listened to enough Ricky Starks interviews where he said, like, yeah, don't really want to do, like, a tag team thing anymore. And he was, I think it was Ricky blends being in character and not being in character in these interviews. So I'll be fair to him on that. And, he was asked about Powerhouse Hobbs and Action Andretti. And he's just like, yeah, I don't know about this tag team stuff. And, like, character wise, well, Hobbs turned on him. Action Andretti, that was just kind of a dud type of thing. So it could just be like, yeah, his character doesn't want to do tag teams, but there might be a little bit of truth into the blending of the lines there. So I like Ricky Starks on his own. I don't know if he needs to join Bullet Club Gold. I do think, was it like a full on heel turn on here? Maybe not. It was certainly heelish. Not so much like grabbing the ropes. Obviously, that's a heel move, but I can play that off, or Ricky can play that off.
It was the Liger thing, though. Like, the disrespect to Liger. That can't be overshadowed or overlooked.
Grabbing the ropes is just like, I outsmarted you type of thing. Like, you would have done the same thing in my position type of thing. Grabbing the trophy from Liger and just being like, get the fuck out of here, Jushin Thunder Liger. Like, that was like, oh yeah, that's a dick move.
And Liger standing there, like, with his hands up, like,
bro, they brought Liger in just to, like, just get disrespected by Ricky Starks. Like, I mean, it's a good payday if you get it. Ricky disrespects people on Twitter for free, so if you get paid to do it, then you're in good shape.
It's easier than having to come in and wrestle Tyler Breeze. All you got to do is come in and just hand him the title, or hand him
Tyler Breeze is probably an easy night at the office. Let's be honest.
Well, I'm not roasting Tyler Breeze. I actually I like the whole Breeze and Liger. The joke was that, like, he didn't have to come in and even wrestle. He just had to just hand a trophy over.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, just bringing Liger in for that. Punk is going to be a fascinating case moving forward, because he's obviously still going to be very prevalent on these shows. Does he keep getting, like, screwed over in a way where he finally breaks? We know he loves the Bret Hart stuff, and this is straight out of the Bret Hart playbook of oh, I'm tired of getting screwed over. I'm tired of getting held back, held down, everything that's wrong with this company. He's going to go backstage and knock the headset off of Tony Khan and call him out and everything. He's going to shove him to the ground. And then that's going to be the big, I don't know, heel turn, or some people probably still cheer him, face turn for CM Punk. Like, is that what's going to happen here? We shall see. But I think we're seeing shades of it right now, and we've seen shades of it since his return, of just, he's going to get cheered in Chicago, he's going to get cheered in other places as well. It's a little bit mixed in Calgary, but like, it wasn't full on like booze or anything. Now once they get back to some top American cities, they're in New Jersey this weekend, I believe,
there, because that's like MJF country.
A little bit, yeah,
kind of, pretty much. I think there'll be a pro MJF crowd that won't like Punk.
Punk's not even announced for this Collision show. They haven't announced like anything outside the trios tag match. I assume they'll continue to announce more. But yeah, I think they're in New Jersey. We'll see how it gets, what the reaction is there. But yeah, Punk's still going to be very involved. I look forward to the follow up with Ricky, because I've said this a lot of times of, Ricky can win, Ricky can lose in this Own Heart tournament finals. It matters, but like, just the fact that he made it there, the fact that he faced Punk, the match was always going to be good. He was always going to get some like good shine off of that match. What do you do with him after? That's what matters, because we've seen cases of, hey, cool, he had this feud, he won, but then they did nothing with it after. He had this match, he won, they did nothing with it after. Like, you got to keep the momentum and keep him on like a top star kind of level. And I think they will, by the way, especially now that there's 2 shows and there's more time. And like you said, for all the criticisms of CM Punk, he seems very willing to put over and let a lot of the younger talent like just kind of shine and give them a bigger platform and a bigger stage and make them look a little equal to him.
Yeah, one, and I mean, I think that's clearly the intention, is like solidifying Ricky as a main event level guy. I mean, and whether or not it works long term is going to be up to the company and up to Ricky, how they execute all this. But like, he's a guy who the people are definitely behind. He's very good in the ring. He's got a good look, and he's been wrestling for like 20 years. People don't realize. I mean, he's been around a long time. And then riddle me this, Jeremy. I just got to ask you, have you ever seen somebody with a worse elbow drop than CM Punk? Like, because it's not even just because he's always been bad at like when he tries to do the Macho Man one, where he does like the little thing and he like always lands weird. But and I've noticed during because he's a very big Bret Hart fan, he emulates Bret Hart to the best of his abilities, and he tried like the middle rope Bret Hart elbow, and I mean that looked even worse than the Savage attempts. So I mean that's pretty impressive. The unathleticism levels there are just unreal. But hey, it's better. You weren't here last week when I got onto Swerve. So I got onto Swerve Strickland because I love Swerve. I've talked about it before. I interviewed Swerve back when he was Killshot at Lucha Underground years ago. Like I'm a longtime fan of this guy, right? But I noticed in the Nick Wayne match, he used kind of like the Pentagon driver type finisher, which I love. Like, that's a great finishing move. Yeah, Swerve has a great move set. He's not really cool. Like, even like the move he does where he like does kind of like that axe kick, where like the grounded axe kick he does to the head and stuff. But he's got really good moves. But when he normally does that double stomp, it's just goofy. I can't stand it. Like, because the people have to sit there like the Undertaker, like doing a sit up and like sit there and look at him on the top rope while he stands there staring at them, and then he jumps down and just completely misses every time. Like he lands around his opponents every time. Like he's not actually hitting anything. So if I'm gonna be fair, like it's not just CM Punk. There's plenty of wrestlers that I like where I'm like, what's up with this? Like why are you doing this to yourself? You're awesome. There's this one thing that's like holding you back. Stop doing it. So anyways, gotta throw that out there. Do you agree with me, by the way? Do you see that Swerve double stomp ever, and you're just like, man, he is not hitting anything. Like, he kind of looks weird.
Yeah, the Swerve double stomp is a weird move. But the thing with that is you either got to really like Finn Balor looks like he crushes guys.
I get the safety aspect, okay? I get that. But like if you're going to do that move, like it's gotta look like you're at least hitting them, like to some degree. because like low-key looked like he was actually killing people when he do that stuff, right? Like they'd like be hanging there and he'd like actually come through. But I think low-key gets pleasure in pain. Like I mean, I've been there live before. I saw him once live. I can't even remember who his opponent was. It was just some poor soul. I saw him wrestle this guy once, and he kicked him in the head so hard, so fast. The thing was over so quick. Like he just went out and like actually kicked some dude in the head, and like this guy had no chance, you know. So I'm not saying that's good, by the way. I'm just saying that's low key, and everybody knows. But no, I get what you're saying, because like Finn Balor, even though when he hits it, like you can tell he's taking some steam off of it. The way he's landing, he tucks his knees in and stuff. He's trying to protect the people he's landing on. But that's my whole thing. If you're gonna do a move like that, you got to at least hit their body somewhere. You can't just dude, imagine if like you could choose any move, but think of what's the most like impressive move that you see off the top rope right now, like of anyone that anyone's doing. Maybe like the red arrow from Pac or something, like a black arrow.
I always love the Phoenix Splash.
The Phoenix Splash is a great move too. Who's doing the Phoenix Splash at a high level right now? Nathan Frazier's doing it as a finisher right now in NXT. So let's say Nathan Frazier goes on. Let's say even Tyler Black back in the day in Ring of Honor goes up top for a Phoenix Splash, jumps backwards, does the flip, and then just lands right next to his opponent. Like doesn't hit them at all, just lands right next to him and then pins him. That's the equivalent of doing a double stomp and just landing around your opponent. Like everyone's seeing you not hit anything. So, and I hope he just stops doing it, because like he didn't do it in the Nick Wayne match. He changed his finish for that, and I hope that stays going forward. You know, that's just my nitpick of the week is like, if you're going to be a professional wrestler and do moves that are supposed to be simulating fighting, you got to at least make it look like you're hitting your opponent to some degree. You know, that seems pretty fair.
I agree with you, Jensen.
If you're CM Punk, just stop doing the elbow drop. Just like stop doing it.
Hey, never happening. He's gonna keep doing that elbow drop until his final match. He's just gonna keep doing it.
Yeah,
it's never looked good. Never looked good.
Yeah. Anyways, we can move on to a more relevant topic. But I love you, Swerve. Just stop doing the double stomp like that. If you're gonna do it, hit him, or at least make it look like you're hitting him.
We did get a super chat from our pal Pro Wrestling Podcast. He didn't leave a message, but he just sent us a super chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Thank you for being a part of the show today. We appreciate it.
Lively chat today. We appreciate you guys.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
IMPACT Slammiversary this past Saturday night. Yeah, busy Saturday night. We had IMPACT. We had Collision. We had there was a Triple Mania as well. Busy Saturday night. But IMPACT Slammiversary, a lot of returns. Stephen Jensen, a man, has returned from the dead. Eric Young is back. Jake Something is back as well. But I think the Eric Young news is the biggest thing here. Your thoughts on the returns to Impact Wrestling?
Well, I think the biggest return is probably Josh Alexander.
He was injured. We knew he'd come back at some point.
Oh, sure. Okay. As far as like people like coming back to the company.
Yeah.
Like, I see what you're saying. So I, by the way, if you want a full review of that show, myself and Joel Pearl went live right after Slammiversary right here on this channel. So you can see the full review. Check that out after the spotlight. It was cool to see Eric Young for sure. I mean, when you think of Eric Young, I think of Impact, like it's not, I wish he had a better run in the WWE. I'm a longtime fan of his, and he's a guy I've gotten to see live quite a few times because he lived in Nashville when I lived in Nashville for a while. So like when I go to like Nashville Fairgrounds wrestling shows and stuff, he was usually the main event of those shows and that kind of stuff. And he's a really, really, really nice guy. I've gotten to talk to him a few times, so Eric Young's a guy that I root for. Like he's a good dude. He's a great in-ring worker in my opinion. And he's been like seriously underused and undervalued pretty much everywhere outside of Impact. The NXT had a good run. They with not Retribution. What did they call that group? Sanity. That worked really well until they split Nikki from them and moved them to the main roster. But yeah, it's pretty funny, like in canon, because in an Impact story, Diener literally murdered him in front of everybody. Like he stabbed him, or at least it's heavily implied that he was murdered. I guess there was no real confirmation of that. But it's good to see Eric Young back. And then I saw in Fightful Select that like he had gotten out of his deal, and the main reason seems like he didn't want to work with Vince McMahon and stuff, and which is understandable because he probably didn't enjoy his experience with them the first time he was there, which didn't go great. So yeah, that was cool. It was good to see Eric Young back, and it was great to see Josh Alexander back as well. Of course, it'll be interesting to see him and Alex Shelley for the title because I'm sure that'll happen soon. And I'd imagine Alexander will probably get the title back because he never lost that belt and he was doing great as a champion while he had it. What was the other big return that I'm missing?
Jake something,
of course. And Jake something is a guy who I'm not really one way or the other. I didn't expect him to show up on Impact, but it didn't surprise me either because I mainly see him popping up at Black Label Pro shows on the indies, but I don't see him as often as I used to, I feel like. And usually when that's the case, someone is signing or is going to be, you know what I mean? If you see people showing up less and less on indie shows and stuff, you start to think either they're going to get out of wrestling or they're signing somewhere. And someone like Jake something I doubted was getting out of wrestling. So it was good. It was good to see him in Impact because now I know, okay, I haven't been seeing him as much as often, probably because he's been getting ready for this return to Impact. And they threw him right into that X Division Ultimate X match, and he held his own in that, as he always does. He can wrestle any type of style, and he's obviously a big, impressive looking dude. So, yeah, it was great to see Jake something back too. He's a guy I've been a longtime fan of back from his Glory Pro days and stuff. So yeah, good to see everyone who I think all the people who return to Impact are people that are actual valuable assets to Impact.
I think Jake something could have easily jumped up and grabbed that X in that spot. There's
100%.
He jumped up and acted like he could not.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, get out of here. That X is a little low and you're pretty tall. I feel like if you tried a little harder, you could have gotten this.
That's a tough spot to be in when you're them, when you have to pretend like you can't do something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I was happy to see Eric Young back, as you mentioned, the Fightful Select report of seems like he didn't want to work with Vince McMahon anymore because Eric Young returned. I think it was November is when he got stabbed. I think the episode aired in December. So late last year is when he basically returned to WWE. Vince came back basically the first week of January when he came back as board of directors, and then he slowly pushed his way more in there. And by April and the Endeavor sale, Vince had plenty. He was, back. He was doing creative the night after WrestleMania. And Eric Young,
he was never gone, by the way. People can speculate and say all they want. Vince was never gone. He was maybe not in the building, but right. Anyway, sorry, that's a whole other thing. But so go ahead.
Eric Young decided, no, not working for this dude. He has his reasons. They're probably all very good, valid reasons. And so we went back to Impact. And Eric Young that's where they're going to utilize him best. It seems like, it doesn't seem like it's confirmed. He's doing indies as well. He's taking indie bookings. He's going to be at, I think, Revolver. They've announced him. I assume he's going to be announced for more of these independent promotions as well. So it'll be good to see him back on the independent circuit.
Dude, he'll do GCW too. It'll be sick. He'll have some good GCW matches, I'd imagine.
Eric Young's one of the most diverse performers in wrestling. He can do comedy stuff, he can do serious stuff, he can wrestle any style you basically need. Just a very well-rounded performer. And Impact's obviously going to treat him very well. They treat their legends look, Alex Shelley's their world champion right now. Love Alex Shelley.
Hell yeah.
No problem with him being world champion, but they really take care of these. And a lot of these feuds, Shelley feuds, Macklin feuds, Josh Alexander feuds, they feuded with ghosts of Impact past a lot of times. So they take care of their legends when it comes to that. So Eric Young's in a very good position when it comes to being back in Impact. And Josh Alexander, his return, and we knew at some point it was coming. He says he's cleared, he says he's back. They'll do the match with Shelley. Does he win the first match back? Does Shelley get the victory? Josh Alexander a little rusty, and then they run it back again. I still think there's still room for this Macklin and Alexander match. I know now Macklin's hurt, and so the timelines are just not coming up for these two guys. But man, they got to pay off this Macklin Alexander thing, because that was really good stuff going into the start of the year. And then unfortunately, Alexander got hurt and Macklin had to beat Kushida to win the title, but there's still potential for that feud in that match.
Yeah, the more that I think about it, the more that I think it'll probably be as much as I would love Alex Shelley to continue to be the champion personally, but I think that Josh Alexander will probably beat him maybe at like Emergence or like one of these upcoming Impact shows, and then the next actual pay-per-view that Impact does will probably be Alexander defending against Macklin. Would be my guess, unless Macklin somehow like beats Shelley back for the title and like Alexander wins it from Macklin at the next pay-per-view or something. But I feel like Josh Alexander is going to have to get that title back to like as a part of the story.
I think Josh Alexander will probably get the belt back as well because he did not lose it. I don't know. You can tell the story of Shelley winning in that and Alexander being rusty.
Yeah, sure.
And then Alexander is back to being like the linear champion and has the title and doesn't look like so much. He's not a fluke champion per se. But you know, when you don't beat the guy who actually held the title, it comes off sometimes a little weaker.
Sure.
You know, MJF's reign is everyone loves MJF's reign, but like still didn't beat the guy who was actually the champion before everything. We know the reasons,
sure,
and whatnot, but like it feels like you need that victory over that person to really solidify everything. And we'll see if Alex Shelley is able to get that over Josh Alexander, or if Alexander just beats him and then Alexander gets the title back and continues on to his reign.
Yeah.
My other spotlight, Jensen, is ROH Death Before Dishonor. Did you hear this? Did you hear about this show? Did you know this was happening tomorrow night? Yeah. They finally announced the main event. It was supposed to be Mark Briscoe. Unfortunately, Mark Briscoe suffered a knee injury. It looks like he might be out the rest of the year, which is very unfortunate. Yeah. And now we're getting Claudio and Pac, which was set up last night at Blood and Guts. We've got Samoa Joe against either Dalton Castle or Shane Taylor. The winner of their match tonight will face Samoa Joe.
You want a spoiler alert? You want a spoiler alert on that? Cover your earmuffs if you don't want to know who it is.
Yes, it is Dalton Castle.
Dalton Castle. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, Samoa Joe against that person we just mentioned. We've got the 4-way tag team title match. It's Lucha Bros. They're finally defending these titles against Aussie Open. Mark Davis is back, which is good to see. The Kingdom and Best Friends. We have Shibata against Garcia, and we have Athena and Willow Nightingale. Those are the only announced matches so far. I'm sure they'll fill up the card here tonight on the Ring of Honor TV. They'll announce like 15 more matches that probably won't have a lot of heat and story behind them, but they'll be on the show and they'll probably be good matches because all these guys are good wrestlers. What stands out to you on this card, good or bad, Jensen?
So honestly, as bad is to me is the Samoa Joe ROH TV title match. To be honest, like I'm not a huge fan of the matchup there. I think there's way better options for Samoa Joe. This is my personal opinion. For the world title, that's really unfortunate because it's pretty clear, in my opinion, that Mark Briscoe is going to become the champion on this show, and like that's a bummer. I mean, obviously, just with the year that this dude has had with losing Jay and the injuries and all that. I mean, that's just, I don't even have words like that. I feel really bad for the dude. And I hope when he comes back to just put the title on him, like get him back in this position, get the title on him. It makes me feel like the only reason he lost to Samoa Joe for the TV title was because the big redemption was going to be tomorrow night, winning the world title.
See, I don't know about that. I don't know if they were going to do that so quickly because Tony on the media call, he wanted to do Eddie and Claudio again, but
That's
Eddie
right.
really wanted to do the G1. And Tony even said, like, I looked at it, I was seeing, could he come back and do Death Before Dishonor and then go back and do the G1? But he said it wasn't feasible, which I'm sure it wasn't. I think Eddie and Claudio, the rematch was supposed to happen here, but Eddie pushed enough for the G1. Tony wanted to allow him to do that. So that's, I think it was supposed to be Eddie because Mark on television was talking, was always going after the TV title still. And
right.
And then it switched of, hey, now because Eddie gave me these words, now I'm going to go after the world title. And, you know, television fans were very confused of like, why he's been pushing for the TV title. That's the title he wants. Why is he now going after the world title? It's because Eddie was in Japan and he couldn't go after the world title. So let's run this video package. So I don't know if Mark was ever going to win the title at this show.
But I feel like since the match was announced, like that, since it was going to happen,
yes,
like that, like Mark was going to win. But I think,
that I can agree with.
But I also agree with everything you're saying. Like, I think that wasn't the initial plan, but that's where we wound up. And like, if that match was going to happen, I feel like you can't put yourself in a spot where like Mark loses again there. Like,
yeah, that I agree.
So, but and then as far as like the rest of the show, I think Athena and Willow is going to be good. I'd like to see Willow win, and maybe they do more with Athena on AEW, because I legitimately forget she's even in the company pretty often. Like, and that's not a roast. That's just because there's a lot going on, a lot of shows, and you miss out on people. I think Shibata and Shibata versus Garcia is the one I'm the most looking forward to, just as a fan of both guys. I think it's gonna be a really fun, just a really great, just pure rules match. Then the only other match we have is the ROH Tag Team Title 4-Way, which, listen, I don't watch the you got to ban this guy in the chat. Like, I don't know what is a bot.
I did.
Yeah, no, I know. Someone, I hear something like clicking in my living room now. Is someone in here? Hello? I don't know what that noise is.
Is the call coming from inside the house?
No, it's not a call. It's like anyway, I'll look in a second. But actually, I'm gonna look right now. Sorry, give me just 1 second. There's like this weird noise coming out of my living room.
All right, Jensen is going to attend to other matters. I will pick up what he's talking about, Willow and Athena. I think they should main event. I know they've pushed for it on socials, and I think it should happen. Look, no offense to Claudio and Pac. And that's going to be a great match. I think you can open the show with that, sort of how they opened it last year with I don't know if it was Death Before Dishonor, but when they opened with Claudio and Gresham and Claudio winning, and they closed with the tag team title match. I think Willow and Athena should main event. It's the match that has the most heat, the most story behind it. All these other matches, there's not much to them. I mean, Claudio and Pac was literally set up last night. Samoa Joe facing a tournament winner is okay. A 4-person tournament winner, fine. Shibata and Garcia has a little bit of setup to it because Garcia stepped to him before Forbidden Door. They had the match at Forbidden Door, so I can understand. I can understand that. Oh my gosh.
He pulled it out.
Because
you're trying to ban him. I know you're trying to ban him. I know.
Yeah, it's very stupid sometimes.
We obviously are not.
No, don't even reference.
Yeah.
Stop.
Okay.
So Shibata and Garcia, that has a little bit of heat behind it because Garcia stepped to him before Forbidden Door. They had the match for Forbidden Door, and the tag team title match. The Lucha Bros have like barely been on television. Best Friends I don't think they've been on television. And Aussie Open, Mark Davis has been injured. Like, they've been building up the Kingdom for this victory, or for this title match, and then they made it a 4-way match for some reason. Athena and Willow has the most heat, the most story behind it, because Athena beat her early in the year. Willow beat her in the tournament. Athena, for my money, has been one of the best champions in wrestling. Her title defenses, her character, the overall work she's been doing on ROH television has been some of, honestly, the best work of her career. Willow, she's got a lot of support. I think this should main event on Friday.
Yeah, I like that. And the only other thing that I wanted to mention about this show with the tag team title match is, I know that because like you said, I don't think Best Friends have been on the show, but I honestly think they'd be the best option to win the ROH tag titles, because they have been day one AEW guys. I think they've been over the whole time as tag teams. They've had really good matches. They just get overshadowed a lot of the time by like Orange Cassidy and some of the other stuff going on with that group. But like, it would give them something meaningful to do with the ROH tag titles, and they'd have like something to do in Ring of Honor going forward, because they're not really on AEW that often. So like, personally, I would really like to see the Best Friends win the ROH tag titles. But I know, for one, it's weird because like, if they haven't been on the show, but at the same time, we have to keep it real too. Like, how many people are actually watching and paying attention to Ring of Honor every week on Honor Club? Like, I feel like these kind of the pay-per-views are more like for someone like me, I'm going to watch the pay-per-view, but I'm not going to watch every week, if that makes sense. So like, I think there's a lot of people like that are just going to be tuning in. just to see the best wrestling pay-per-view that they can watch for Ring of Honor tomorrow night. Like, I don't think they're really going to care about the stories. They just want to see great matches. So I don't think that people are going to like mind if a team like the Best Friends win the titles and they haven't been on the show, especially when like the Lucha Bros are the tag champs. And like, I don't really think of them as Ring of Honor guys. Yeah. I think of them as AEW guys, not Ring of Honor, So like,
see, this is where I would like more of a hard split with Ring of Honor and AEW, though. They just won't do it because they want the ROH stuff featured on AEW television to help give that a boost. And I understand that line of thinking, but like when you got Claudio as the ROH champion and he's doing, Blackpool Combat Club stuff, but okay, let's go to Ring of Honor. And then he's in kind of disjointed feuds for one reason or another. I know that Eddie stuff was supposed to play in to this, so I don't fully fault them there because Eddie wanted to do the G1 and everything, but like Samoa Joe's like doing seemingly nothing on ROH television, but then he's facing CM Punk. He's in the Owen tournament on AEW television. I would like a harder split on this stuff because I think you can have more focus that way, because ROH is just, simply put, it's going to take a backseat to AEW. It is. And so if you've got guys like Claudio, Samoa Joe, and you want to use them on AEW television, you're not thinking so much about what they're doing in ROH. I think it's worked with Athena because she really hasn't been on AEW TV. She was in the Owen and she lost, but at least that set up this Willow feud. At least that set up this Willow match. Samoa Joe lost to CM Punk. That ain't setting up nothing on ROH television. That's not doing anything. So with Athena, though, it's worked for her because, again, she has just been ROH. She's not really been on AEW television. Should she be? Yeah, probably, but she's not. And it's worked for her and really helped her get over more in ROH. And I would just like to see more of a harder split on that stuff. That's why I think the Kingdom would probably be the best option to win the ROH tag team titles because they're not really on.
They're pretty much Ring of Honor only. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
You put Best Friends on there. Best Friends keep taking L's on AEW TV. And they're going to keep, they're at where they're at on the AEW pecking order. If you put the ROH titles on them, I don't know if that means they move up in the AEW pecking order, but or maybe you just keep them in ROH. Maybe you just have them more established in ROH, and I'm fine with that. I would just like to see a more established split between ROH and AEW to put more focus on the actual ROH stuff going on, and it's not as disjointed with the ROH AEW stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%.
So that's the ROH pay-per-view. And when you talked about like people are going to order this for great matches, like yes, but like you can see great matches every single week on television. Nothing on this card is like Shibata. Like there's good matches, right? I'm not trying to say like this will be a bad show. Like these matches are going to be good. There's a lot of great wrestlers on this card, but I'm not, if I'm just a casual fan, I know ROH, they ain't really casual fan type of things. Like you're either watching the show or you're not. But like, if I'm just looking at this as someone who didn't have to cover it, but still like kind of watching it, I would not be super sold on this show. Like, I'll check out the matches I need to check out, but they've done very little to hook me as a fan of like, oh, this is a must see match beyond, hey, this will be a good match. I need a little bit more. That's just my perspective. All right, let's move on to our indie spotlight, Jensen.
I'm going to give a big motherfucking shout out.
A big motherfucking shout out to one Called Manders winning the SCI 2023 tournament. Jensen, I know this is your home base here when it comes to the Southeast scene. So what can you tell us about Manders and winning this tournament, what it means for him?
So it's the SCI tournament every year it's the tournament I look forward to the most every year in all of professional wrestling. It's the Scenic City Invitational Tournament. It takes place out of like the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, Red Bank, Tennessee. They did it out of the TWE arena. And it's a tournament it's very prestigious, and it goes along with the Action Future Showcase tournament, which happens the same weekend. And like, just to give you examples, like some of the Future Showcase winners, like Manders had won the Future Showcase before, Marco's son had won the Future Showcase before. Over on the main tournament, guys like AC Mack, Jaden Newman, Matt Riddle, like there's been like a lot of like really big winners of the SCI tournament that have gone on to do like a lot of big stuff in wrestling. And Manders, to my knowledge, is the first person that's won the Futures and also has won in the main tournament now. And to get there this year, Manders had to beat Noah Hossman in the first round and then he had to beat Sawyer Wreck in the second round, and then the finals is a 4-way elimination from everyone who's won their matches up to that point. And Manders had to beat Adam Priest, Darian Bankston, who's the TWE champion, and Landon Hale to win the whole thing. And it's just really, really happy for Manders. He seems like a really good guy. I got to watch him live in Southern Underground Pro back when like he was really first getting his start, and like he was a guy who was one of those legitimate, just showing up, trying to get a spot, helping out with the ring kind of guys, just like hoping to get booked. And now he's winning, major tournaments. He's a part of the Second Gear crew. He's a part of MLW. He's obviously a major part of GCW. He's been for a long time now. So like Manders is really, he's doing great work. He's a great professional wrestler, in my opinion. He's very legitimate. He's an actual cowboy. Like he's an actual dude out in like, out in like the Midwest. I think he was in Iowa, but like he actually, he won the SCI, and then he's tweeting the next day that he's out on the farm, with like barrels of hay and stuff or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he's the real deal. And it's good to see him get some shine individually, because so much of it you see with like the Second Gear crew. Like this was cool to see himself, just the one called Manders, getting it done in the tournament. And then he cut a really great promo afterwards. He gave a speech to the crowd, and he's just very humble. And if all goes as planned, I don't like to say this stuff out loud before it happens, but the plan is for y'all to hear from Manders on next week's show. So the plan is to interview the one called Manders and talk about the SCI win, talk about the SGC, talk about GCW, MLW, a whole bunch of stuff with his career. The plan is to have Manders on the show right here next week for y'all for the interview for the spotlight. So hopefully that all goes as planned, because I'm really looking forward to talking to the guy. And congratulations to Manders for winning the CNA State Invitational 2023 tournament.
Yes, big congratulations to Manders, and Jensen's been killing it with booking these guests for this show. We've got really great lineup coming up for everybody over the next few weeks. But as far as Manders goes, like I'm obviously familiar with his work from GCW and Second Gear crew and everything. I know he's been kind of knocked of like sort of a Mance Warner knockoff, and I know like they're kind of like in the same group. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was about to say. Yeah, they're buddies. Like they're partners.
Yes,
they should be kind of similar in some ways.
Right. Like I've seen that knock on him, and like they're in the same group, the Manders, the Mance type of thing. I think like I was confused when I first started seeing him pop up. I was like, wait a second, is this kind of the same person, or is this a different person type of thing? Because Mance Warner would just go as like Mance, and like one called Manders, Mancer. Mancer.
Old Mancer.
So it would confuse me a little bit. Different people, different styles, but also kind of similar styles. But yeah, good win for Manders, and a good showing. And now we will see what he does moving forward. I know SCI is a very big thing in the in the Southeast region and everything. So it's a good platform for him to hopefully boost his career a little bit. So
if you want to hear more about the SCI, check out the Weekender from this past week. I cover all of it, both SCI shows and the Actions Future Showcase. Give you all the results, all the finishes, everything over there on the Weekender. So check that out over on Fightful Select.
There you go. The other indie spotlight, my indie spotlight, Stephen Jensen, is Isaiah Broner winning the AIW Absolute Championship from Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona's reign finally comes to an end. Broner gets the victory, as you would expect in these Matt Cardona matches at AIW, a little overbooked and whatnot, but the end saw Broner overcome all of it and win the title. I'm very happy for Isaiah Broner, he's been on In the Weeds before. He's actually on In the Weeds after he won the Gold Rush tournament to earn this shot at Matt Cardona. I think this guy can be a big time player. He's got a great look, got a very hard hitting style, very humble individual as well. Big win over Cardona. Like I think we love Josh Bishop on this show. I think Broner is like at that level of somebody who can like be the face of AIW.
Yeah, Isaiah Broner is the man. I mean, we talked to John Thorne about him a while back too, and something I always say about him is just authentic, just believable. Like you say, Isaiah Broner, he looks like a dude who can kick ass. His in-ring style is very in-your-face, straightforward, just hits nasty lariats and stuff. I really like his style. Like I like his vibe, everything. He is a star. I do like Isaiah Broner a lot. Also shout out to Wes Barkley, who won the absolute title. The intense title.
Yeah.
On the same show, and he's on the same show. Joshua Bishop defended the Juggalo Championship Wrestling Championship as well. So, but yeah, the main event, it was really cool to see Broner become the champion. And there was a lot of storyline involved there too, like you said, with it being overbooked and whatnot. But it made sense because like PME came out, they hit, I think their finisher was Sunset Dreams. It's like the 3D flatliner thing that they do. They hit that because they took a lot of strays for Cardona over like the last year plus. Like they were the guys basically getting beat up for him over and over and over again. They finally had enough of it. They turned on him and they laid the stage for Broner to hit that last lariat and get the 1, 2, 3. So shout out to Isaiah Broner for winning the absolute intense wrestling championship. And he's the right guy. Like, I mean, Bishop's been there, done that. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be the champion at some point again or whatever, but like it was time for someone new and someone to beat Cardona for that. Like it really put someone new over, and Broner's the right guy in my opinion. So yeah, we're very happy to see that happen for him.
And you mentioned our interview with John Thorne, which was over a year ago now at this point. And he talks about Broner, like he got the match against Suzuki. He got the match against Eddie Kingston. Like clearly they've been building Broner. There's a lot of trust in Broner. So yeah, very happy to see him get this title in this position. Angel Chris says, appreciating the discussion of all promotions. Hey, that's what we do here. We like covering
every Thursday.
Yep. WWE, AEW, and then we covered the other stuff that maybe don't get as much love on the main channel on Fightful. So we try to cover a little bit of everything. And we also cover action figures and toys, Stephen Jensen. Yes. And I know you have to run, but go ahead and do the plugs and also set up this interview a little bit.
Yeah, I got to clock in for the shoot job. I'm already late, but they can deal with it if they're seeing this. You can follow me on Twitter at FightTalk _FIGHTTALK_. Follow. Make sure to subscribe to Fightful Select while listen to the Weekender podcast if you like all stuff from all promotions, especially the independents. This interview right here from Jeremy Padawer is incredible. He's the chief brand officer of Jazwares. He's responsible for the AEW figures. He's responsible for the old WWE Jack's Classic Superstars line. And they have the IP for a lot of big stuff like Roblox and Fortnite and Pokemon. I mean, this guy is the man, an actual legitimate legend in the action figure game. And Jeremy, if you want to tee up the interview even more after I bounce, feel free to. But I think y'all are going to really enjoy this interview with Jeremy Padawer. I got to bounce and clock in. It was good seeing everyone in the chat. Good seeing you, Jeremy. And y'all will hear me next on Sunday for the Weekender podcast over on FightfulSelect.com.
There you go. Thank you, Stephen Jensen. As always, enjoy the rest of your day in your Cody gear, as I'm sure you'll be taking calls, and hopefully he just woes at people as they come on. All right. As Jensen mentioned, we have a great interview with Jeremy Padawer, who you know him from Jazwares, where they do the AEW figures. He was a big part. I mean, really, he talks about it in this interview. He helped like launch WWE figures as well, and turn that into what it's become. Now they have their deal with Mattel. He actually praises Mattel in this interview. He's like, I'm not trying to give too much praise to Mattel, but he does enjoy some of the work that they're doing with Mattel and WWE. Not only does Jazwares do AEW figures, they do Roblox figures as well, and they do Squishmallows as well. He shows off a giant strawberry Squishmallow at the beginning of this interview. And one of my children, this is one of their Squishmallows. This is the famous in this household anyway, the famous Penguin. Probably the most famous person in this household, if I'm being honest. So this is Penguin, one of the Squishmallows from Jazwares that Jeremy Padawer has helped create. Everyone can say hi to Penguin. Everyone can show Penguin a lot of love. And now we're going to get into our Now we're going to get into our interview with that's Penguin speaking to everybody. Penguin appreciates all the love. We're going to get into our interview now with Jeremy Padawer of Jazwares. Hope everybody enjoys it.
Welcome to the Creator Spotlight, the interview portion of the Spotlight right here on Fightful. I am Stephen Jensen, as always, joined by Jeremy Lambert, and our guest today is the Chief Brand Officer of Jazwares. He's an investor, he's a collector, he's a legend of the fig game, and he's also Logan Paul's Pokemon guy. We got a lot to talk about today. Jeremy Padawer is joining us. Jeremy, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining.
What's going on? I'm so happy to be here with you guys. I'm here with the real Jeremy, Mr. Lambert, and Stephen Jensen, the legend himself. So this is good. This is good times.
Oh man, thanks for
already off the bat with the brownie points. I appreciate it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a Stephen Jensen special right here. You see all the figures lined up behind him, and I was collecting figures when I was very young, and we were talking a little bit off air. I have kids now, and they have no interest in the wrestling figure stuff. But they're like, the Squishmallows and Roblox guy. That's who you're talking to. This is what we're interested in.
You mean this? You mean the Squishmallows?
That's a giant one too. Look
That's
at that
a big
thing.
one.
Yes.
Man,
Chocolate dipped strawberry Squishmallow right next to me.
Well, just to start off, I mean, because there's so much we can talk about. Squishmallows right there. I mean, y'all have the IP for like massive stuff. I mean, Pokemon, Fortnite, Roblox, AEW. The Squishmallows, though, similar to Jeremy, there's a girl that I know that has like a little nephew. Like he's probably like 5-6 years old. Once again, no interest in wrestling, but the Squishmallows are huge, and I've been seeing them in like the malls and stuff. What's it been like with like that taking off, and Jazwares in general? Because y'all are still like a fairly new company, but like guys with a lot of experience, obviously doing this together.
Oh man, it's been a great 5-year run, that's for sure. So Jazwares is the 4th largest toy company now, which is remarkable. But the path to get here was an entrepreneurial path. So about 11 years ago, myself and a couple partners started a business. 8 years ago, Jazwares and a private we bought a company that owned Squishmallows together, and it has just been a rocket ship. Sometimes entrepreneurship is really hard, and it takes a long time to grow and to become viable. And I remember someone who had success in business tell me, you just need to have a break followed by a bigger break. And I was like, damn, I can't even get the first. Where's the first break? But it's amazing. It's amazing. A lot of resilience, and things tend to come together. A few things came together, and yeah, Squishmallows has been absolutely phenomenal. It's been a phenomenon.
What about just like you in general, like getting into this world and becoming who you become? Like, Jeremy Padawer is a name that, if you collect really any of the things we're talking about, you're even once again even like the hype beast YouTube world. If you go and you watch Logan Paul buying Pokemon cards, you could see Jeremy Padawer right there. I mean, was this because I know you're obviously like you're a big collector yourself. But on top of that, like you're an investor, you're into like the graded stuff, like you're really deep into this world, NFTs, like really everything collectibles. Is that really how it's always been for you? Is like you were always a big fan of this and just became like your life and your job and everything?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Deep South. I didn't have connections, grew up in a very middle-class family, not a kid that had like a college fund lined up for me or anything like that. But from day one, I was collecting. My brother's 13 years older than me. That my parents were teenagers when they had him. And basically he heavily influenced me when I was a kid. He took me to flea markets. He took me to places where I could, buy things for $1 and then, see things being sold for $3 down the way. So from the earliest time, whether it was coins or stamps or baseball cards or whatever it was, I was always excited and into collecting. So for me, it was natural as I got older to always resonate towards it. And when I was in college, I started creating a series of websites and gamed Yahoo. So Yahoo, the search engine, was a super dumb algorithm. It was simply, if you had 2 letters that started with A, you would show up first on their search. So I created a series of websites called Absolute Beanie Babies, Absolute Furby, Absolute this, Absolute that. And after a few weeks, I had thousands of people coming and streaming through. So that was the very first opportunity in my early 20s to really monetize my love and joy for collecting as a business person. And I followed that trail. I finished grad school, went to Mattel, went to another company called Jax, and then started Wicked Cool Toys, which ultimately became Jazwares. And it's just been that is the fastest summary of my career, and we can deep dive into that. But man, it's been a lifelong, as you said, it's been a lifelong pursuit. There's no doubt.
where does wrestling mix into this? Like as like a fan and as a collector and as someone who makes these things? Because also, I mean, people have to know this. You mentioned Jax. I mean, the Classic Superstars line is like one of the most iconic. I mean, you're involved in so much that's like, because I mean, for people who are in the know, the AEW figures very much feel like an extension of that line. And like, it's something that I think collectors were missing for a long time.
So I was 29 years old and I was at Mattel. And I got recruited to go to Jack Pacific to head up their boys entertainment group. And 29 to head up a division is quite good. But one of the reasons why I was an ideal candidate is that I had toy brand management experience and I was a big wrestling fan. And a big wrestling fan because I moved 8 times by the time I was 13 all over the South. So it's a perfect marriage. When you live in the South, especially Mississippi, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, all those areas that I lived in, wrestling over indexes and permeates, especially regional wrestling, because why? You don't have Major League Baseball. You don't have the NFL, but you have these bigger than life superheroic personalities that would come through town and establish themselves as the professional athlete of the area, not just a professional athlete, the professional actor, the professional stunt person, the professional athlete, the professional everything. So I'm 29 years old now, and I had this life, I had this childhood with wrestling, and I had toy experience, and I had a little bit of internet experience doing stuff. Got recruited to Jax. And, one thing at the time is that it was about 2.5 years after the Attitude Era. It was 2002, 2003. And the toys were treated as toys up until that time, up until I jumped in the wrestling game. It was all about who's the latest guys and can we put a cool feature in there? And is there a way that we can sell to kids? During the Attitude Era, things, as you can imagine, were blowing up. But a few years past the Attitude Era, things had simmered way down. In fact, sales of toys were so far down that we were about to get pulled off the shelf at Walmart, and Target was really questioning whether they wanted to be in the wrestling game at all. Those were the 2 biggest players at the time. Toys R Us was always committed, but they were taking very small business, and so was KB. So 29, big fan of wrestling, and I said, you know what? I have an idea. Why? Because I was a baseball card collector, a card collector growing up, and I loved the old alumni. I loved the superstars of yesterday. So I believed if we treated the toy business like a collector business, that we could actually create a significantly larger opportunity, despite the fact that the ratings may be lower. So I had the opportunity to sit in front of Vince McMahon, and I said, Mr. McMahon, 29 years old, I said, we're having challenges in the toy business. I was like, but I have an idea. All right, tell me the idea. Let's hear it. Let's hear it right now. And I told him, I said, it involves bringing back the alumni, and I have an idea for a name called Classic Superstars. And I showed him the first wave, and the first wave included Ultimate Warrior, included Bret Hart, included people that were not traditionally in the entertainment. And when Mr. McMahon says that if it's good for business, he'll do it, he actually means it. Because no matter what was going on between those guys, he actually greenlighted it. So as long as I could go and sign these characters, we could do the deal. And it began from there in 2003.
Wow. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So were there challenges? Because as you kind of mentioned, like Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart weren't on the best of terms with WWE at that time. So were there challenges like getting them to sign anything here?
It's amazing. One thing I can say about toys is that toys are like the great calibrator of adults and other human beings in general. You bring toys into a situation and you can solve a lot of the world's problems. I'm convinced because you're so emotionally attached to your childhood and you're so emotionally attached and you want the best thing for children, right? I barely meet anybody in this world who don't want good things to happen to kids. Okay. The worst of the worst in business, still, if you give them a button to push, they're going to push, yes, we want good things to happen to children. Okay. Maybe they don't care about adults so much, but that's just the truth. So sitting with Mr. McMahon and talking about the Classic Superstars line in the concept of saving the business and the concept of growing the collector business, but at the same time, making there be a place for kids to go to retail and find WWE and wrestling figures That was compelling for him. Here was the challenge. And what he posed to me was simply that, listen, he said to me in his own voice, if WWE ever wants to do an alumni association, which is, today, as you can see, they really do leverage the alumni a lot and, under the Legends deals. But if they ever wanted to do it, how could they let me go rogue and sign individuals? Okay, so that was the first challenge. And luckily, I had enough legal knowledge and background to say, how about this? What if we sign them, we pay them a minimum guarantee, and we make it A, non-exclusive, so that they're not locked into us and only us forever. But B, if you sign them, we lose the rights, but they're fully paid by us, but we gain the rights from you because you're the licensor. So that solved the problem with WWE. WWE looked at it and Vince McMahon very specifically deemed that to be a appropriate solution. But then on the flip side, the question is, how do you get Ultimate Warrior and Bret Hart and all those guys on board? And the way we did it was simply making some phone calls. And it was a lot of fun finding agents and finding family members and finding all the folks. And look, when you're 29, it's amazing how much energy you have. I mean, I'll be 50 in a couple months. And I will tell you, my energy level is much lower. My experience level is a lot higher. And, but phoning in 100 phone calls to professional wrestlers is not like number one on my list right now. But at the time, it was awesome. It was like the only thing I wanted to do. So calling Ultimate Warrior, befriending him, and assuring him that, A, there is an open playing field here, no matter what's happening from a legal standpoint, no matter what's happening from a conflict-oriented standpoint, and then doing a deal with him that was creative because he was a very good business person. And what Warrior said to me was, look, I'll do it, but I want you to make me some very limited edition exclusive figures that I can individually sell. And those have become legendary in and of themselves. Bret Hart was it was easy. It was very easy, just a phone call, understanding and explaining the situation. And he signed on. And most of these guys did. Fascinating group of individuals, these guys. Unbelievable. Speaking of that Ultimate Warrior, is that one that Kyle Peterson has one of those from you, right? Is that one of those? I know he has a figure that has like a letter next to it from you, like authenticating it. And I don't know if it's that one that you're talking about. Well, yes. So what happened was we did several limited edition Warriors. A couple we did for New York Toy Fair, and that was really to kind of introduce the idea of classic superstars. And the buyers would come in, and then we did a special event for guys that had like. It was pre-podcast, so maybe they were writing for a magazine or maybe they had a newspaper, but we were like handing these out, and people were like, their minds were like melting. You could see like their brains seeping out of their ears. They were just like blowing up and I was just like, this is incredible. But yeah, that's how so that there's one of 100 there. But yes, Warrior, we did it several 1 of 5s and maybe a 1 of 10 for him, and he would sell them for thousands of dollars each. Of course, it didn't cost us very much. I mean, we just created the sample. And of course, it was fully approved by WWE. And everybody was on the same page. Nothing was done under the cover of darkness. Everything was totally ethical. And if I signed something saying something was authentic, it's authentic. That's my take on it. Absolutely. You know who I'm speaking of when I bring up Kyle Peterson. Yes. Okay. He's a YouTuber that like I watch this stuff all the time, and he's always bringing up the pinless joints on the AEW figures. He never shuts up about the pinless joints. I never even knew what that was until he kept bringing it up. I was like, what even? And then I'm like, this isn't even a big deal. Like this doesn't seem like a big deal at all. Can you speak on that, by the way, just because I'm thinking about it? Like, is that because the Supremes don't have them, right? Or they have the pinless and the others have the pins, right? Here, I've got a Supreme right here. I've got a Ray Phoenix Supreme. And if you look at the joints, what you'll see is there's really no pen whatsoever. Okay. Right. And if you look at the joints of a traditional AEW figure, I guess it just depends on which one. Honestly, you can't even see it. Yeah, you can't even see it. He always brings it up. I know. That's all right. Listen, passion is the best part of this. And it's what's so exciting to me about the entire wrestling figure game is that there's a community within a community here. and people are as passionate about the wrestling figure business as they are about the wrestling business. And for me, it's been great because it's turned me into the niche of the niche of the niche known in a particular area, which has been fascinating and awesome. I've loved it.
Well, I think the first time I ever heard your name spoken was through Cardona and Myers. Like it was those guys. Like they were talking about you a lot, especially around the time that the AEW figures were being like conceived. Speaking of kind of the challenges and putting together everything for Classic Superstars, what's it like, I guess, in comparison, like if it's similar or like way different doing like Jazwares with AEW? And then on top of that, like, is there the opportunity similar to what you were just talking about where if there was like a performer not signed to AEW that wasn't signed anywhere, like, is there some potential there to do like AEW Jazwares style figures for them as well?
Yeah. So first, I just want to say Cardona, Myers, those guys, they've brought so much legitimacy to collecting. And it's been something that I think the entire community has benefited from their hard work. You can have people work on the video game side and they get heralded with all kinds of positivity. You have somebody doing something on the action figure side, and for a while there it was considered a little bit more nerdy or a little bit more niche, and I think they changed the entire perception of that. The whole idea of the 40-year-old virgin, from back in the day, that's done. That's over. Comic-Con went from being niche to being mainstream and beyond mainstream. It's like you have to be there now if you're trying to sell something meaningful. So we're really, for me, from the bottom of my heart, those two guys and Smart Mark and all those guys mean a world to this community and mean a lot to me personally. Now that means that I've completely forgotten the second part.
No, sorry. No, I'm glad thank you for saying all that though, because to be honest, like watching those guys, because initially they were doing their show on like the WWE YouTube channel before they had been released, and then they brought the whole thing over with like their shoot names. And around that time, I remember like I was in this position where I was like trading in a lot of my old stuff that I didn't need anymore. Well, not even action figures, just like stuff around. And I started going to these places that had like old figures, and I started thinking like, I used to collect the Bendums. Like I'm starting buying some of these that I'm seeing around, and I used to collect these and that, and so I started getting into it, and I started seeing Cardona and Myers and like their videos and this whole community around it and stuff. And that was for me too. That was a big thing of getting me really deep back into it. The second part of my question was about the relationship with Jazwares and AEW, and like and if it's possible to go outside of AEW to bring talent in that's unsigned for the figure.
Yeah. So there are two parts. So when we did this with WWE 20 years ago, it was a very novel idea. In fact, it had never been done before, really. Maybe on very small scale. And certainly Mr. McMahon had never approved anything like that. But the timing was perfect, and there needed to be a catalyst within the business to drive it. Okay. 20 years later, it's interesting because it is a proven pattern of business. And so there are more alumni that are signed to deals. I think AEW would be fine and very much open with us doing this. But I still think that we're still driving the basic concept of AEW as a brand within wrestling, and making sure that in and of itself is situated well at retail. And we came out of the gates on fire, and we've been doing quite well. And we manage retail very closely. So even like, I'll give you one. In September, we're literally going to go into retail, remove old figures from the shelf, and replace them with new figures. And you know what? That's extremely unusual for a manufacturer to do that. Usually they just let retail choke on something for a while. But like, we believe in AEW, and we want to keep that. We want to keep variety at retail, and we want to keep this thing flowing. So to answer your question, yes, I do think it's viable. It's different now than it used to be because the cat's out of the bag, let's just say. So it's a little bit more nuanced and maybe a little bit more difficult to put together a program that's viable, but it can be done. And I think AEW would be totally up for it. And most importantly, we just want the AEW figures themselves and the talent within AEW to just have a nice, easy flow at retail, which we've had, and you're going to see, especially going into the fall.
I want to ask about the LJN deals, because when this came out, everybody was very excited when the AEW LJN figures came out. So how did that partnership come about? And then the second part to this is, how do you decide which wrestlers actually get the LJN figures?
You know, we're doing very few of those, right? So it's like every other wave, and then it comes out in the unmatched wave. Yeah, look, it's one of those things that we tend to focus only on the very, very top of the card talent for LJN style figures. And so you're, likely going to see maybe the top 15 pro wrestlers within AEW get one over the course of time. But we're opening up an e-commerce business as well. And so it does give us more leeway to sell more and go deeper into the roster, even on the LJN figures. And so there is that opportunity. The LJN brand, interestingly enough, was owned by Chalkline. And those guys are super awesome to work with. So we reached out, we did a deal, and that's how the LJN and some of the wrestling buddies came about too.
Can you speak at all? Not that you probably don't want to, honestly, but like the Darby LJN, the whole kind of debacle with that. Because I own the figure, I was looking forward to it for a long time, but that was just a strange situation. It felt like with the delay on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general there was. I'm trying to remember what was the specific delay on Darby.
Was it the size of how he's positioned? He didn't fit in the box. That was a speculation that I was seeing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So my mindset was I wanted all the LJN figures to be the exact same size as the original LJN figures. Okay. And I was pushing the factory really hard on that. The first figure that came out, the Cody, wasn't of the same scale as the original LJN. There was a bit of a miscommunication internally. They did everything they could to live up to what I wanted, but in doing that, it was weird and it just simply didn't fit. And we learned one very important lesson, and that is once you choose a footprint at retail, and what I mean by that is once you choose a box size, you can't have one box that's outside of the range of that box size, or it screws up the entire planogram at retail. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the basis for that. And I'll take accountability on that one. I think it was a scenario where I was pushing really hard. Everybody wanted to everyone wanted to deliver to what I was saying. And then at the end of the day, they did, but then the box doesn't fit. And it's just, not my best moment, but it's definitely one of those things that I think you use that as a lesson and move forward and do it the right way next time.
Well, I appreciate you giving an answer on that. Cause it was just like a weird scenario as fans. Cause we were all waiting for it to come out and then it didn't come out. And then, but I have it. It's sitting in my display. I got my whole wall of exclusives over here next to me. So it's all good.
Good.
Yeah. So, hey, and I forgot to ask you this when I just brought up about the possibility of unsigned talent with the relationship of New Japan and AEW and Forbidden Door and the crossovers.
Yes,
is there going to be New Japan figures, or can you talk about that at all?
If I could talk very freely about it, I would. It's a little bit outside of my domain to give or speculate specifically. I mean, let's put it this way: I'm going to talk less as an action figure manufacturer, and I'm just going to talk more as a fan for a moment and say all of the things that you're seeing in terms of AEW breaking down Forbidden Doors and working with other and legitimizing in a way on local content distribution, other major alliances is next level thinking. Okay. Frankly speaking, as a fan, it's awesome. I love seeing that. I'd love to see more of that. It's why not? It's great for the business, right? Mm-hmm. It only makes sense that one extension of that would be in consumer products. It would not at all surprise me if that happened, but I can't confirm it, and I only can speak about it in that kind of manner.
That's fair. Are you aware of the market for custom Will Ospreay figures right now?
I am aware of customizers and the amazing work they do, and I've seen people pay hundreds of dollars for a great custom.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that that's probably following the pattern.
Yeah. I bring that up because there's this guy out there who's putting out these things are selling for like $400 to $500 right now, and he's cranking them out. And I'm just like, if Jazwares would just make their own, it'd just be theirs. You know what I mean? So,
well, you know what? Look, I will tell you that I'd love to do that. I would not be at all surprised if we can figure out a way to make that happen.
Awesome. Well, the last question I have along those lines is about the Supremes. Can we still expect like CM Punk Supreme, Young Buck Supremes, and like kind of in a timeline on those if possible?
Yeah, you can absolutely expect that, and we should be cranking those out. You know, especially with e-commerce and especially with the relationships that we have with people like Ringside, way more often. So maybe 4 to 6 styles a year or more.
They're, in my opinion, they're the best figures on the market.
Thank you.
They're
incredible. Staring at the Ray Phoenix right now. Thank you very much.
How and I guess one more follow up to that. How do you determine what's going to be like a Ringside like exclusive versus just like a regular release?
So I've known Jonathan for 20 plus years. Okay, so Jonathan Piankowski at Ringside, and he's obviously created a beautiful business, and we go back all the way to the earliest days. Okay, he was a kid, he was in college, and way back in the day, I basically told him, I was like, look, if you are willing to dedicate that, if you're willing to turn this into your career post college, I'm willing to dedicate. They bought the message boards, oh God, what is it? Wrestling Figs message boards and all that, dude. He crushed it. It was brilliant. So cut to 20 years later, and now we're doing AEW. Because there's such a close relationship, essentially the way it works is we just go to them and say, look, tell us the top 8 things that you're looking for. And if they're not otherwise part of our line, and sometimes when they even are part of our line, we'll do the right thing from a partnership standpoint, and we'll reallocate certain things to give them a great lineup, because we want a healthy Ringside Collectibles. Healthy Ringside Collectibles is great for everybody, and it's great for the wrestling figure game in general, because nobody's been more consistent than those guys from a retail standpoint with wrestling figures for this period of time. They've been awesome.
I don't know if this, I believe it's a Ringside Collectibles exclusive, but the dog collar with CM Punk and MJF, So that's a big one. And on the point of that is AEW still a relatively new company. Like this is their 4th year going into it. And so they don't have like the ton of memorable moments that like a WWE or someone has, but they're starting to create those memorable moments. And I don't know if this is like a Ringside Collectibles call or your call of like what memorable moment, memorable match, memorable face gear is like, hey, let's turn this into a figure. And so I guess 2 parts on this is like, is that your call, their call? And then second part is like, is there something that stands out to you of like, ooh, that's a good figure right there? That's something we want to do down the line.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, we try not to be dictators. Okay, so we'll establish what we think is the best line, and then we'll have a 2-way conversation with both AEW from a licensor standpoint, because ultimately they have to approve the stuff that we do. They have to look at the sculpts and the deco, and they have to look at the lineup and everything else. But also with a retailer like Ringside, as far as we're concerned, some manufacturers see everything as a one-way thing. Not for us. It's 2-way. It is a 2-way street, especially when people have so much data and information. And that's really the way it works. Like with a Ringside Collectibles, we'll sit down, we'll say, here's what we have coming out. Here's a few ideas for things that we can do with you. What do you got? And we'll sit down and negotiate it. We'll hash it out like like you might do in any scenario that you're making stuff for somebody. But in terms of what makes a great moment, what makes a great moment in the moment is often very different from what makes a great moment in retrospect, and the way something is kind of marinates over the years. Like, I can't even imagine that. Oh gosh, now this is a function of being almost 50 years old, but when we did the Classic Superstars character of the guy that fell through the screen back in the day
Shockmaster.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't listen. The fact that I'm blanking on Shockmaster is pathetic, and it means I'm probably only doing this for a few more years. But
yes,
dude,
so
Shockmaster. I'm going to tell you, there weren't 17 people on Earth that would have bought a Shockmaster figure 10 minutes after that broadcast. Not 17, maybe not 10, maybe not 3. Okay, but by the time we're doing Classic Superstars 15 years later, that was one of the moments that was like a meme moment where people were like, oh yeah, we want it. So it is amazing what happens over time and the terms. Yeah, some things are obvious. Some things are super obvious. If you have a major championship match and there's blood and there's a championship change and there's a moment, of iconic moment where one person is victorious and the other's like, it's easy. It's easy. But when someone runs towards the ring and slips and falls into the ring and blasts through a stage, like, these things tend to get better and better and better over time after percolating a bit.
Well, that's something that, another thing I want to give y'all credit for is the blood and guts line that Jeremy's referring to. That's another I love that exists in the figure space. It's something totally different that, for like the older collectors and even for the kids, like they'd want to reenact that match. Like, what better way? I used to color all over my figures. I'd take red marker and color all over them because they didn't have blood on them. You know what I mean? So like now you got the real deal.
Dude, I did too, except I wasn't using LJNs. I was using G.I. Joes and renaming them as wrestling figures and my Star Wars figures, which is what you had to do before you had proper wrestling figures.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else I wanted to give y'all credit for that I wanted your mindset on here is the idea, which I know that people really appreciate, is the way that you've made these figures to where you can like pop the torsos and everything off so easily to like customize your own figures. I guess, can you speak at all to that? Or is that just kind of the mindset is like collectors are going to want to do this. Let's make it easy for them so they don't have to do it all these steps to like, if they're going to pop the heads off these things and the arms and shoulders and stuff, like let's just make it easy for them.
Yeah, I think that part of it is that. Part of it is from a QC standpoint. Sometimes when you do that, it makes something safer. Sometimes it makes something harder to actually break when it breaks away.
That's a good point.
But the other benefit of it is certainly something that was in our mind that resonates. We do want people to be able to do what they do. Once a figure is in your possession, and I used to I was shocked that Matt Cardona would do this, but like he bought all the Classic Superstars and then let them breathe, right?
Yes.
Busted them all out of package, which I thought was crazy as hell. He spent probably $20,000 breaking figures out of package, but you know what? It made for great content, and it was a great moment. And like that's the way I look at it. If you want to break them apart, mix and match, customize, bloody, blow up, whatever it is, it's your figure federation. It's your fantasy land and world. It's your content. Go do what you're going to do.
Yes.
One line where I don't know if you could do that is the bone crunchers. And
I love bone
nowadays, so, like, is there any possibility of doing like an AEW bone cruncher line?
Sure. Absolutely. Maybe we'll start on it like right after this call. It's such a good idea.
Ooh,
yeah,
wow,
I love
that'd be so cool.
Dude, so back in the day, I'm been doing this a long time, right? So we did a lot of things also that didn't work. Like I don't know if you guys remember face flipping fighters. Remember those?
Yes.
I remember like the Power Rangers that would do the head flip, but I don't think that's something different than what you're talking about.
The fact of the matter is 3% of the people that listen to this will actually remember face flipping fighters. But there were two things that we tried that were kids oriented at the same time that we were trying the Classic Superstars to appeal to adults. The adult one worked, and the rest is history. The wrestling figure business is primarily a collector business today. The kids business didn't do so well. One was face flipping fighters, which was basically you push the legs together and there'd be a flip from like a happy face to a really pissed off face that may be super red. And like, so anyways, there's a lot of things that you can kind of like deduct from those types of things, but I don't want to get into it. And then the other was something called Pump and Flex. Now, Pump and Flex was the biggest POS of all time. Okay. And I don't mean like point of sale. I mean the dirty part. Dude, it was, you would squeeze it and the chest would come out into this rubbery substance, making it look like you've like totally flexed out. Right. And the problem is the rubber after about 12 months would start to disintegrate. And so even at retail, you'd like have Pump and Flex looking like a saran wrap on a piece of chicken. And so what I'm basically saying to you guys is it hasn't all been peachy. We've made plenty of mistakes over the years, but all in all, like when you get it right, you focus on what you get right, you use that thread and you run it. And when you get it wrong, you go to retail, you pay them what they need to get paid to get that stuff off the shelf so that you can open it up to sell some good stuff. And that's generally the way it works. But I think my favorite sort of unheralded figure assortment of all time, and I'm trying to remember what it was called, whether it was called Unlimited, but it was like there was like a I remember if it was Unlimited. Again, I've done so many lines over the years, but that's one to look up as well. That worked okay. It wasn't like a slam dunk, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, a line that I think is going to be a slam dunk is when y'all start putting out those Ring of Honor figures that y'all have been teasing. That's very exciting. Has the feedback been? I mean, it has to have been like overwhelmingly positive, I'd imagine, because these are figures talk about moments and characters and figures and stuff that we never thought we would get for the last 20 years.
Listen, I am so psyched about Ring of Honor, and AEW psyched about Ring of Honor, and our team psyched about Ring of Honor. We're going to do a phenomenal job with that. And, the extensions there are interesting because you talked about the idea of doing, authentic legends. And, AEW's relatively new organization. So like we did the Owen Hart, which was awesome because it was bringing somebody back after 20 years, but 25, but you couldn't do it as authentic because the original gear may be associated with another association. But if you do some of the classic Ring of Honor stuff, that's a whole different story. So it really opens the door for us to do some really cool, not just present day Ring of Honor product, but historical and bringing back characters that, in a very authentic way.
Yeah, that first really... Bryan Danielson Ring of Honor figure is, I'm sure, going to sell very well, and is definitely one that I will have my eye.
Our design team rocks. They really do.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you know, by the way, that like, I'm sure there's like SKUs and metrics and stuff involved in this, but like, how do you know like for sure if a figure is doing well? So like, I want to make more of like this person, or we maybe shouldn't make as many of these because they didn't do as well. Like, how do you kind of judge that?
Well, there's several ways. One is instinctively, you kind of have a sense as who's on the top of the roster, and who's in the middle of the roster and who's on neither. And if you're managing it right, you can go deeper into the roster by affecting the amount of product that's going out. So if you have an assortment of 6 pieces in a master carton, maybe a C-level character shows up once every 2 or 3 boxes. So one of every 18 figures, whereas an A-level character might be 2 per box. So there's ways that you can game it going in to shipping. But ultimately, you never know for sure. And tastes vary over time and excitement varies over time. So what I like to do is I like to undership in general. And I know it's very annoying, but I will tell you this. It's better to have a shelf that is empty sometimes than it is to have a shelf that has the same figures on it for a year. Right. That's the worst for a collector, the worst. So anyways, number one, you can game it. Number two, you can gauge it because you can see the point of sale information. And, you know, every one of these action figures has like a mother number on the box. So you can see it either on the UPC code or otherwise. But a lot of them also have baby numbers where you have individual numbers for each character. So when beep, they go across the sales, you can see the data. So I can see, oh, wow, Darby's selling a ton of figures and Schmarby is not. And so less Schmarbies and more Darbys.
Well, I mean, it's good that there's all those trackers and metrics now, because I'm sure you've heard the stories back in the day. You buy probably any of these WCW figures behind me, they probably rang up as Hulk Hogan back then. So.
Oh, I can tell you why, by the way.
Yeah, if you'd like to explain.
Yes, please do.
So, and all right, so this is not about those WCW figures or any figures in general. I'm not casting any sort of negative spell here, but I can tell you that one thing that bad actors can do, and there's nobody that I know of today that uses this, but back in the day, I knew some folks that would occasionally, is if you had excess stock, okay, and you know, your characters are tied to a particular number, right? But if you had excess stock, just shove the stock into a box where that said Hulk Hogan from a mother number, even though it said another name on the box itself, and you're able to sell some additional product in the marketplace. It's horrible. It's a horrible practice. But if you've ever seen that sort of thing, that's one potential explanation as to why.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
This is fascinating.
I do want to. I want to follow up on, you mentioned on Jensen asking like, who do you kind of decide to sell and things like that. So very famously, Cody Rhodes had about 18 figures come out, and Britt Baker had 0 figures come out, and she made it no secret that she was displeased with how many figures Cody was getting compared to her. How much of that was reality, and how much of that was her playing kind of just into the online persona here?
Well, for the basis of this, I'll say it was 100% reality.
Was she calling you every night of like, why is Cody getting another figure? What are we doing here?
Let's put it this way. Early on, especially when you launch any action figure line, you have to be very careful. You have to be very, very, very careful. And, you know, I really believe that, especially during the first 6 months, we undershipped pretty significantly because we didn't want retail to choke on product and then to turn on us very quickly, which they will do. I mean, you can be off the shelf in 2 seconds. So if I had it to do over again, I'd have had Britt in, you know, wave 1, but the truth of the matter is that's not the path we took, and we waited too long. I wish we'd have had her out before. Playfully, she wanted to kill me. In reality, maybe she wanted to kill me, and in fantasy, she definitively wanted to kill me. But she wasn't the only one. And I've been on the hit list of many very strong, very athletic people over the years, and I will always be on their hit list, and that I'm okay with that.
Now, speaking of those early run AEW figures, you know, honestly probably my favorite. It's hard to see with my camera, but I've got all of Series 1 version 1 signed behind me here, and that's like one of my favorite. It's like the kind of the centerpiece of really my collection, honestly. Like I love that first line. I'm a Cody Rhodes mark, so like anything Cody, I'm all about. And speaking of, and this is another question. I don't know how much you want to talk about this. I don't know how much there's honest. Like I really don't know, but like my Grail figure is that first series Cody Rhodes with like the Star Trek style shirt and everything. That's like become super valuable.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But there was a very short time.
I gave mine away. Yes, I was trying to get some Twitter followers or something. It was so stupid. I was like, you know what? What is it selling for now? Thousands of dollars?
Thousands, yeah. Thousands.
Okay, great.
And to tie into that, there was a short time where they were being sold for $100. I believe it was High Spots was selling them for $100. And it was like a really short time thing. I couldn't afford it at the time. And it was like this really crazy thing because it was like the only time I've really seen anything like that happen where it's like, I know that obviously Shop AEW does theirs. I buy all those. That's super easy. Just, you know, when they're coming out, you go on, you buy them. But there was this one day where like these Cody Rhodes the rare Cody Rhodes popped up online for $100, and I was so confused by it, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't buy 5 of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but I can explain it, I think.
Okay.
Sometimes when you make super limited edition product, the way you describe it to the factory in terms of the way it's distributed is like this. Okay. I'm going to use some arbitrary numbers. Okay. But you say to the factory, okay, wave 1, we're making 50,000 figures. Okay. Of those 50,000 figures, we're making 500 figures that are these very special limited edition figures. I don't want all 500 to show up in the same shipper,
right?
Where one store blasts them out and they find a bazillion of them. But what I do want you to do is for every 100th figure that you ship out, until you get rid of all 500 figures, so 100 times 500 is 50,000. Okay. So for every 100, I'm going to ship out one of these special Cody Rhodes figures. Okay. And then what happens is, in a perfect world, after 50,000 figures have shipped out, boop, 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 99, 100, bam, the Cody. 199, 200, bam, the Cody. 299, 300, bam, the Cody. Ideally, 49,999, 50,000, boom, Cody. All right. In reality, what happens is 99, 100, Cody. 199, 200, Cody. All right. I'm just going to do one box. I exhausted. I'm going to do one box of Cody's. That's my best guess, is that occasionally or it could be less like that and more like, okay, we've shipped out all the figures. We still have 7 Cody's sitting here. What do we do with this? There's an order for the first wave. Just ship that. And somebody just gets really, really lucky. It's either a situation where you've really given some very detailed instructions and someone decides in the middle of the night in a country 6,000 miles away to deviate from those instructions, or it's a scenario where you have some stuff that's left over and they box it up and ship it out and someone gets really lucky.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because just in my own experience, kind of like paying attention to the scene as stuff pops up, I'm in a bunch of like the Facebook figure groups and all that stuff. And like, it seems like it kind of goes in waves. Like you'll see like a lot of people all at once be like, I found a chase. And then like you won't see that for a minute. But it's almost like it goes in like cycles and waves almost. But
that's very fair. And I think that has a lot to do with what I'm saying.
Right.
Best laid plans, really basically turning into something where somebody's making it a little bit easier on themselves and just kind of shipping it out as a box with a bunch of stuff in it.
Cool. Got it.
My last question. You've been very generous with your time tonight.
Of course.
Keep
you guys are
too
awesome.
much longer.
I'm honored to be here, guys. Honest. I mean, like anytime. So.
Oh, we really appreciate it. I know Jensen specifically can probably just ask you a million more questions.
Yeah, I got like 1 or 2 more. That's it. Like,
no problem.
Yeah. Cool.
My last question on the wrestling side of things is there a figure that is almost a white whale of like, I've never done this one and this is what I always wanted to do?
Yeah, Owen was at the top of that. Okay, because in the Classic Superstars assortment, I talked to his wife for 10 years. And we just couldn't get there. It just, it was really hard for very clear reasons. And there was a lot of respect. Martha, is a phenomenal individual, top notch. We couldn't get there. So the fact that we got there with AEW had a lot to do with Chris Jericho and Tony Khan and Martha. And interestingly enough, also, my good buddy from Dark Side of the Ring, Evan. There were a lot of players that came together that made something like that possible, where we were connecting the dots. So that fell at the very top of the food chain. For me, at one point in time, doing a Jerry Lawler 2-pack with the comedian
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, that was another grail for me, and that we did that with Classic Superstars. Ric Flair was my favorite growing up. That was another grail for me. So some of the grails we were able to do, some we weren't. I personally, and I'm going to put over another company, and that's fine because I've done this a long time. But I love that Mattel is doing the Muhammad Ali figure. I love that. I actually have to say I have a ton of respect for that move. That was a solid move. I think that there's certainly some opportunities out there, but Owen was a big one for me. I'd love to do Owen in some real authentic gear. That would be cool.
That actually ties in with the next question I had, which is, how did you link up with Logan Paul in the Pokemon world? And also, what do you think about his figure? Because I have it here. I think it's an incredible. They did a great job with this thing.
Great job. I mean, it's no, it's no Supreme.
It's no Supreme. No. We're not getting crazy. I mean, listen, WWE fan creation ultimates like that. Those are cool, but they're no Supremes.
I'm just messing around. I can't say too many nice things about Mattel in one sitting. Okay, one a show. That's it. So Logan reached out to me early during COVID. I was being a very vocal Pokemon collector, and what had happened was, originally when we sold Wicked Cool Toys, we sold a lot of it, and I retained equity in the larger organization as well, and stuck around. But one thing that I wanted to show and demonstrate to Pokemon was that I'm in this for the long haul. I don't sell and run away. That was never my objective. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like money. It's great. It allows you to do things that you never expected to be able to do. And like I said, I didn't have a college fund. I didn't have a lot of stuff. So I was pretty much happy. But I'm glad, but I didn't want to run away. So I made it and I very publicly said, over the next year, I'm going to spend $1 million on collectibles that I love, and kind of fulfilling a childhood dream that I was certainly never, ever able to do anything like that before. So one of the things that I focused on was Pokemon. And I bought some amazing vintage Pokemon product before everything blew up in a positive way. And so it turned out to be a good investment too. But along that path, Logan Paul sent me a text, and he was like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. Let's talk." And we got to know each other, and we had a lot of shared objectives when it came to our collecting. And then one day he sends me another note, and he's like, "Hey, what is the Grail? What is a single Grail? The single number one? What is the Honus Wagner PSA 8? What is the 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10 Topps Pop 3? What is the 1982 Hulk Hogan PSA 10 doesn't exist, by the way, Wrestling All-Stars. What is that item? What is that item?" And I said, there is a population of one, 1997, 1998 Pikachu Illustrator. It is PSA 10. I said, it is the Grail. There is no other Grail quite like that. And we talked about it for about 6 months off and on. And I happen to know the very private person that owned it in Dubai. And that person in Dubai, I think everyone assumed that he was, maybe a sheik, of untold remarkable fortunes. And I will not deny or confirm. I will say he's an awesome guy, like a really cool, down-to-earth, everyday person, whatever his background is. And I reached out to the guy, and the first thing I said was, I make Pokemon stuff. I don't want any part of this deal. I don't want a commission. I don't want a damn thing. I just want to be part of history. That's all I want. I want to be around it. It makes me so excited. It's everything I ever wanted to be. Let me be a part of this. And I made that clear because, again, it goes completely against my objective of showing that I'm not opportunistic. I am a collector. Yes, okay, stuff will go up in value. And one day when I retire and I'm no longer part of the Pokemon universe, I'll sell stuff because I don't want to anchor my kids with stuff that they don't understand. But I'm not trying to do that right now. And so Logan and I talked about it. I reached out to the guy. The guy came back to me and essentially said, you know, he would do a deal for $6 million. And it was kind of a very large sum of money. Okay. Now that sum of money, though, is not out of bounds with the highest end of card collecting. A couple of the cards that I mentioned before, a PSA 8 Honus Wagner, the original Honus Wagner, the PSA 10 Mickey Mantle, those are $40 million cards now. Okay. Now I'm going to draw a parallel on those cards. Those are $40 million cards. That's a guarantee. Like if they said they would sell it for 30, I would put together a fund and I would contribute a large part of that fund to buy it at 30. That's how I know it's worth 40, because I would contribute to a fund at 30. Okay. All right. So enough of that. I'm proving a point. So $6 million is a lot of money. Okay. It's more money than I would have ever expected to see in my lifetime. That's for sure. And so you got to respect it. And I went to Logan. I said, look, it's a ton of money. And he's like, takes a deep breath. He's like, okay. He goes, I want it. I want it so bad. And he said, is there any way I could trade a PSA 9 illustrator, because there are a few of those, and give him money? And I went back and essentially a series of conversations. And the guy said, yeah, you know what? I'll take $4 million and a PSA 9 illustrator. Talk to Logan. Anyways, we go through this whole thing. About 6 weeks later, I get a call out of the blue. Get on FaceTime from Logan. I get on FaceTime. And he's smiling and he's holding a PSA 9 illustrator. And I go, no effing way. No way. You're doing it. This is insane. And so I then linked the two of those guys together. And I exited fully expecting that was about as close to this as I was going to get. And I go to dinner and I get a text from Logan, and he basically says, hey, man, he goes, I want you to come to Dubai with me. And I said, this has been a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. I said, I don't think that you really want a 47-year-old man in your content. I said, I don't think I'm good for your content. And he goes, no, you don't understand. He said, you're a big part of this story. He goes, I want you there with me, please. And I was like, all right, I'm coming. So I booked my ticket. I booked a first-class ticket with my own money. I booked the Burj, the one of the best hotels, period. I blew about 20 grand, and it was the best 20 grand I've ever spent, to be honest with you. I loved it. I stayed out all night for 3 nights in a row. And by the way, they were like, you can really hang. And you know what the truth of the matter is? I just never acclimated to the new time. So there was no hanging. It wasn't about hanging. It was just simply a guy that's old that never reconfigured myself. I got home, my wife's like, dude, you're like on the time zone. I'm like, yeah, I stayed up all night every night. It was the best night.
Oh my gosh, that's such an amazing.
That's a long story. That's a long story, but that's essentially how it came together. For that.
That's amazing. Now, one other question I had about that and Logan and his figure. Now, I don't think this is something that's possible, but I feel like you're the only person in the world that can even ask about this. I would take this question seriously. Now, you have the IP to Pokemon.
Yes.
They cannot use the Pokemon illustrator in Logan's figure. He has a blank space where his card would be.
Yes.
Could you theoretically make unrelated, really small Pokemon cards that you could potentially, hypothetically put into one of those?
Now that is very clever. Okay. Because then you'd get an authentic card to go with an authentic figure.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So Pokemon is incredibly long. They make decisions based on a long-term decision.
Sure.
Okay. And as their toy maker, we kind of know our place in the world. Okay. We make plush things and plastic things. We make role play things, but we do not make cards.
Right.
Because that is their domain. And I would never in a million years even approach them with it because I never want them to think of us or me as encroaching upon their primary business. And that's just that is a absolute truthful straightforward answer.
Yeah.
It sounds really cool. And if I could just sort of wave a magic wand, there'd be kind of things like that happening. But you know what? You got to respect. First of all, Pokemon saved my career. You know, we had created a new business, and you know, like I said, you need a break, and then you got to have a bigger break. Well, you know, my break was Pokemon coming to me and saying, you know, we love the way you manage the business, and you know, you guys are very small, this company that you created 6 years ago, but we actually think that you can relaunch us globally. And it was right before Pokemon Go. And that was a miracle. And that had a lot to do with, you know, they say, okay, karma, right? So everyone's like, is karma real? Maybe karma's real. Maybe it's not real. I'll tell you how karma's real. Karma's real for sure, in that we all have memories. We all have memories about the way we work together and how we deal with one another. And some things go in the bad bank of memories and some things go in the good bank of memories. I banked a lot of good memories with those folks. A lot of respectful, good, ethical memories. So it all came back later on in this opportunity. That was the break. And that just blew up everything in a positive way for me. So I will never do a thing. If someone told me tomorrow I had to spend 100% of my money to protect the relationship with Pokemon, I'd probably do it, because it means that for me, I'd have purpose and I would have longevity getting to work with them more. That's how much I care about that. Of course, the second big break was everything that happened afterwards with the sale and then Squishmallows. And then the one thing we haven't touched on is that last October, we have a new sheriff in town. Warren Buffett bought our company.
Right.
So Berkshire Hathaway came in. And how about that for a remarkable, outrageous turn of events? So I've talked your ear off. I hope that's okay.
Dude, absolutely. This is like,
yes,
I love this. I mean, I had a couple more, and these are going to be fast answers. You can give me whatever you want on these.
Go for it.
This is unrelated to anything else we've even talked about, but I'm a fan of yours, so I know weird things. Would you put would you put any? Is there even a number that you could put on your Michael Jordan, LeBron James error card?
Oh man! All right. So here's the number. You ready for the number?
Yeah.
The number is, don't buy stuff with other people. That's the number. Because when you buy stuff with other people, no matter what it is that you want to do, you are only part of a group. And so, yes, there was a number, and the number that we got was 1/20th of the number that I think it should be worth.
Did you sell it?
Sold it.
Oh, I didn't know you sold it. Okay, I didn't even know you sold it. Okay.
Yes. If it were just my card, no, the number would have been impossibly high.
Okay. I was just interested. I did not know that you sold that card. Jeremy, just so you know, Jerry Padawer had this. It was a error card where the front of it was LeBron James's rookie card with a Michael Jordan back on it and Michael Jordan's name on the front. It was like the most bizarre error card ever, probably.
Impossible card. And my buddies at Upper Deck, when I showed it to them, they were like, "This is crazy. It's real. It's bizarre." The best thing that we could potentially come up with is it was a test run, and that someone just palmed it at some point, and it's kind of found its way into the universe. But sometimes things can be so rare that it's hard to establish a value to the level that you would think that something might be worth. And that's kind of like a situation like that. There was nothing that you could possibly compare it to.
Sure.
I'll say that I'm looking up just a photo. I don't know if this is the real thing or anything, but I don't know if I'd ever let that go. That seems like,
no, trust me.
You have the two greatest basketball players of all time.
I know.
Like, both number 23. That was probably part of it too.
I know, but here's the thing. If you buy something with two buddies,
right?
Okay, and I have no problem with those guys. I love those guys. But if you buy something with two buddies and two people say they want to sell something, you sell it. That's just the way it works. If you buy it with one buddy and you're stronger than them,
are these people still your friends, Jeremy? This is the
100%.
question.
100%. No friendship is worth. At this point in my life, maybe at one point I would have, I would have had a sore spot. There's no friendship that's worth an amount of money for me. None.
Sure.
Nice.
That's fair.
That's very
Very fair.
heartwarming.
This is absolutely my last question for you.
Let's
All right.
go.
All right, here we go. This is once again completely unrelated, and this is because once again you're very forward thinking. You collect everything. You're thinking in the future with all this stuff, right? Just shoot it to me straight. Just give me a real answer here. During the pandemic, did I waste my money on Dave & Buster's NFTs?
Oh man. So look, I don't want to disparage anybody, but here's what I will say about NFTs. Okay, I'm gonna listen. You know the answer to that question.
I do. Yeah, they're valueless.
in fact, yes, they probably. Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about collectibles in general. Okay. When you have, and I'm looking for a trading card. Oh, you know what? This kid made me
look, yeah, that thing exists, right? Like,
okay. So this is not real. A kid made this for me. It was very sweet. Okay.
That's awesome.
It's a 2001 Jeremy and Pikachu first edition. Okay.
That's awesome.
So this is one of the greatest things. So I keep it in my office. Okay. So now let me just say this, okay, in defense of the concept of invisible objects having value. Okay.
Sure.
Let's just say for a moment that this is worth $1 million. Okay. Now there have been pieces of paper that are worth $1 million. In fact, I demonstrated one that sold for $5 million, and I've communicated to you that there are some that sell for $40 million for real. No doubt about it. I know it would. Okay. In our imagination, this is one that would sell for $1 million. But the physical paper here may be worth 3 cents. It may be worth a penny, and now it's got writing on it. No one could ever use it again. So what is the real intrinsic value of this little piece of paper? It's very low. Right. On the other hand, you have this invisible thing that has no intrinsic value whatsoever. So really, this you accept is worth millions of dollars, and this seems like it would be worth nothing because you can't see it. So I have mixed emotions about NFTs. The problem with NFTs was not in the underlying concept of value. The problem in NFTs were the number of rug pulls and fakers and bad actors and really, really poor ethical bad things that happen in NFTs.
That's fair.
Yeah, they were just the beauty behind physical cards associated with licenses is that there's a gatekeeper, the licensor. And this gatekeeper will make damn sure that year after year, whatever the card is, whether it's Magic or Pokemon or Topps Baseball or whatever else it is, has a system of collectability that will stand the test of time. It's like a social contract between the manufacturer and the consumer. And we feel like we have a social contract as well when we're making our action figures, right?
Sure.
There was a lack of social contract when it came to a lot of the NFTs, and there were no controls. So yes, Bored Ape came out and CryptoPunks came out, and there was some rarity to it, and it was very cool and unusual. And yes, being a part of the club actually came with some benefits, and maybe you could get to go to a party, etc. And that was okay for a moment. But then 6 months later, there were 1,000 of these clubs. And then 6 months later, there were 1 million of these clubs. And there was so much bad behavior, and it all imploded. My take on it is there will be a day where these invisible objects have some value, recreated in a whole different way, and with long-term protections. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I have a lot of thoughts in terms of the way you could even establish a business around it. But right now, 99.8% of the stuff in the marketplace is complete trash, worth nothing, and they've earned it. Bad actors. I'm not saying Dave & Buster's falls into that category.
No, understood. No, Dave & Buster's standard here on this show. But
I am saying that's just the reality of it.
That was by far, hands down, the most logical explanation of NFTs I've heard anybody explain. So I'm glad that thank you for bringing all that up. And hey, listen, the way you explained it too, maybe like 20, 30 years into the future, I do, not without even knowing it, I do kind of sort of own part of Dave & Buster's, so like maybe Yeah. Sometimes the best thing to do with some of this crypto is like just forget your password and come back to it for a few years later to see where it's at.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I'm going to tell you a business plan, and maybe somebody on this. Here's a free business plan for somebody. Maybe somebody on this will make it work, and I hope you do. In fact, I hope that everybody I meet, I hope does something that fulfills them and gives them purpose and gives them a great life. But the thing that's missing in the NFT universe is that when you invest in something, you want to have a return, some sort of return. So if you invest in a stock, you're investing in a stock because you want the company to be profitable and that they divvy up that profit in distributions, or they retain those earnings and they become more and more valuable as an organization. Alternatively, you want to buy an experience. You want something to happen. You want to be a part of a club where only you and your other holders can experience something real. My belief is if you created a community where the idea was there's profit sharing, meaning that whenever these things sell, everybody in the community also shares in the profits of these things. And so if they go up in value, you share in the profits, just like in a traditional business. And 90% of the value that's coming into the creators is distributed back to the people with experiences. If you could do both of those things and make it very people-centric, then you have something that I think actually will have value and really interesting. Other than that, there's so much crap. It's just complete dog poop.
Yeah.
You can curse. You can curse.
It seems literally called shit coins that people invest in. I mean, like, it is what it is. I mean, so, yeah, Jeremy, I don't know if you want to ask the one we always ask. I mean, it's a tough one.
Oh, we have to.
Not like Jeremy. I mean, this is go shoot for it.
Okay, so we ask everybody this, and you've already shown us some very awesome collectibles, but we ask everybody the coolest thing you have in your room.
Oh, wow. So the coolest things I have are in a vault. Okay. And that's
a flex. That's a huge flex right there.
No, it's not. It's self-preservation, just in case anybody wants to check out where I live. But the coolest thing I have are in a vault. That's just the truth. And for me, probably one of my coolest things is a first edition, first print Harry Potter, 1 of 500, that is in pristine condition. It may be the best copy in the world. And when I bought it, I paid the most ever paid for a modern work, and it was a couple $100,000. And look, I say that, and keep in mind, I already disclosed to you that I said I was going to spend $1 million because I was trying to show my partners how much I'm in this forever. But that Harry Potter book, like, look, 20 years ago, I remember reading those books with my wife, right? I never read. I can barely read, to be honest. I sat there with my wife. I read all those books. Those books are incredible. So having the opportunity to buy the pristine copy, it may be a flex. It's also the truth. And it is 100% not in my house.
Fair enough. That's fair. Well, you've already shown us some very cool things.
Absolutely.
Just in your, I assume, office that you're in.
Yeah, I'm in my office right now. In fact, you can kind of see,
Oh, wow.
Other stuff going on around here.
Very cool.
Look at all that awesome stuff. Jeremy, thank you so much.
We've taken way too much of your time, man. Thank you so much for sticking around for so long with us.
This was a blast, and thanks for everything that you guys do. You guys have truly, again, I got to tell you, as a kid growing up, if there was only like media like you guys covering the fight game, covering all of it, it just makes it better. You make things better. You extend the content. You extend the fantasy, you extend the fun of it. And thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah,
thank you for everything you do. I know when the AEW deal was announced, everybody was very excited about that, and now they are big hits. Jensen again has the entire collection behind him there, and I'm not the figure collector that I once was. I will say it's around here somewhere. I have the Orange Cassidy figure. That is one of the best figures I've ever gotten my hands on, especially because you can put his hands in his pocket, which absolutely rules. So yeah, that is one figure I was like, I'm going out of my way. I got to get this Orange Cassidy figure. And when the Danielson ROH figure comes out, I'm snatching that thing immediately as well. So thank you again for everything that you do. Let everybody know where they can find you at, where they can support you at.
Well, first of all, Jazwares. So Jazwares is the company, and you can find us everywhere you want to look at Jazwares. And for me, Twitter, I think it's at Jeremy Com. Instagram is at Jeremy Padawer, Padawer. And I just, sometimes I talk about collecting. Sometimes I talk about the stuff that we're making at Jazwares. And sometimes I just lament or troll. Just, what can I tell you?
Jerry, thank you again so much. All the links are below in the description, by the way, on the video, folks. So everybody can just click there, go to where you need to go, whether it's following Jeremy on Instagram, Twitter, any other social, or checking out the Jazwares websites and supporting everything they do. Because it's not only wrestling, as we talked about a little bit, the Squishmallows, the Roblox, the Pokemon.
Fortnite.
The kids are gonna bug me
Coco
to go
Melon.
on this website.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. The kids are like, get this. Like, all right, calm down. Okay, thank you again, Jeremy. We really appreciate it. Guys, we will be right back here on the. We are back. Big thank you to Jeremy Padawer for getting very gracious with his time. Very gracious with his time. We recorded that last Wednesday, not last night, but the previous Wednesday is when that interview was recorded. Again, big thank you to Jeremy Padawer. If you are a figure collector, if you were into any of that type of stuff, hopefully you got a lot out of that interview. All right, everybody, we will be back next week with a brand new episode of The Spotlight covering WWE, AEW, and all the promotions across wrestling. New interview, as Jensen mentioned, we hope to have one called Manders on the show next week. We have a great lineup of talent coming up in the coming weeks. We've talked to them. We got them booked. Sometimes plans change in wrestling, so we got them on the schedule for right now. We're like 5 weeks out on our schedule for interviews. So very excited. Cool things happening here. Trying to boost specifically the independent and content creation scene here on the Spotlight. All right, everybody. Don't follow me on Twitter. Keep following Fight Talk _ on Twitter. And go check out Fightful Overbooked. Fightful Overbooked, go check out it specifically in the weeds, because that's my show and I want to promote that. But go check out all the other stuff that we do on Fightful Overbooked as well, coexisting with Rob and Maggie. FMC should be back next Tuesday. I took this week off. That was on me, traveling and whatnot. All the other show, new episode of New Japan Bread Club is up now. Loving Wrestling with Tom Talks Rubbish, talking to different content creators about why they love wrestling. A lot of different stuff over there on Fightful Overbooked. So go check that out, fightfuloverbooked.com. We'll be back next week here on the Spotlight, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Thursday. Talk to y'all then.